Welcome to the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast with your host, hailing from Kokona, Wisconsin, riding a CST Tires SSI decals traveling back Yamaha YFC 450R, four-time ATV Motocross National Champion, number 25, Cody Jansen.
What's up, everybody? We're back. Welcome to the latest edition of the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, episode 95 of the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, presented by our title sponsor, CST Tires, in stock and available for purchase today at shop.csttires.com. I'm your host, Cody Jansen, saying hello to our nearly 180,000 monthly Digging Deep listeners in all 95 total countries in which you are listening, and this is our 2022 Quadcross of Nations review show. For the fourth consecutive time, Team USA set sail across the Atlantic Ocean and won the Quadcross of Nations on European soil. Yes, I'm sure all of you know this by now. Team USA overcame early heartbreak to win the 2022 Quadcross of Nations, and we're going to dig into everything that went down in the Czech Republic in the episode ahead. Our very own Casey Greek, who was wrenching for Bryce Ford at this event, of course, starts us off by chatting about his experience and taking us behind the scenes with Team USA leading up to and through this iconic event. After that first segment, we'll dive into Sunday's racing with team members Chad Wienen and Bryce Ford as we discuss all the craziness of race day, all the craziness that went down, and we'll conclude the episode by wrapping up the event as a whole. With that, let's quickly shout out all of our incredible partners before dropping the gate on the final race review episode of the season. CST Tires, go to shop.csttires.com today. Yamaha, thanks to Blue Crew. Thank you SSI Decals, DID Racing Chain, Nemura Technologies, Bronco ATV and UTV Components, Impact Solutions, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply, the financial advice of the Haymauer Financial Group, Forworks Carbon, DP Brakes, Factory 43, Integrative Financial Concepts and their Safe to Race and Safe to Ride insurance programs, Binky's Forever ATC Museum, Evans Waterless Power Sports Coolant, Walsh Racecraft, and Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. Manscaped's signature line, the Performance Package 4.0, includes the new Lawnmower 4.0 electric trimmer that I rely on to help keep my beard on point, the best nose hair trimmer ever created, and an array of goodies like deodorant, boxer briefs, a travel bag, and more. So check out Manscaped. I wish I would have sooner, and get 20% off with free shipping by using code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. So rad that Manscaped is invested in ATV racing as a longtime partner of Digging Deep. So help us keep them in the fold and involved in ATV racing by using our Digging Deep 20 code so they know that you enjoy digging deep and what we're all about here. Support all these great companies that support us, and for any products that fall through the cracks, click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner on our website to help us out. The 2022 season may have come to an end. The banquet is this weekend, but we're still doing some riding, guys. Fall riding is the best. So whether it's for fall riding or already prepping for next season, you know, that's important too. We both know you still need parts and gear. No matter what off-road gear parts you need, Rocky Mountain ATVMC has you covered. But before you buy, simply click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner on our website. By using our specific link, we get a percentage of what you buy on the back end, enabling you to help us out while purchasing the parts you need anyway. And did you know that you can buy OEM parts from Rocky Mountain ATVMC as well? Yep, shipped conveniently right to your door. So click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner at diggingdeepatvmx.com to help us out while satisfying all your gear and parts needs. No new donors to shout out this week, but we appreciate all of you that continue to donate, our regular donators, so much. And if you are interested in donating and hearing your name on the show, you can find the Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee donation links on our website. Major thanks to all of you who have donated. You guys freaking rock. We appreciate it so much. But now, it is showtime. The 30-second board is up, it's sideways, and the gate is down. Time to dig deep. Let's go. All right, guys, boy, have I been looking forward to this conversation back in the States after a come from behind victory for Team USA at the 2022 Quadcross of Nations, brought to you by Blenders Eyewear. Use discount code DiggingDeep20 at blenderseyewear.com from Impact Solutions and Mechanic. In triumphant fashion for Team USA member Bryce Ford last week in the Czech Republic. Say hello to Mr. Casey Greek. What's up, Casey? Congrats on the win, my friend. It has to feel like you're still riding that high, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk about this one and kind of get, maybe some inside view on, how things go over there. But yeah, absolutely. Cloud nine, thank you to Bryce and the entire Ford program, for letting me and trusted me to come over there with Bryce and be his mechanic and stuff. And it was cool to shake off the wrenches a little bit and, pull out the old pit board and wave a towel a little bit. It was cool. It's at times I was thinking in my head, like, do I still got it? Before I ever went over there, do I remember how to do this? And I've always kind of been known for a pretty aggressive mechanic, say in the mechanic area or the signal area or on the starting line. And one of the things John always told me, and even Doug, my talks before the gate, were always something that they look forward to. So I'm like, do I still have all that same shit? I need to go back, and really kind of refire those cylinders. So it came back just like riding a bike.
Awesome.
Had a great time with Bryce and the whole crew over there. So I'm excited to dig into this thing.
Yeah, me too, man. It was so cool seeing you share those pictures kind of side by side of you back in the day with Digger, doing the pit board for him, and then side by side with the photo of you doing Bryce's pit board now at the Quadcross of Nations.
It was so cool. Someone sent me that picture. Oh, one of the guys from over in Europe, a photographer over there, he sent that to me on Instagram, or I found it or whatever. And I looked at it and I was like, I've seen that picture before. But it, obviously wasn't wearing the same colors, and I was, 16 years younger.
Right. Yeah.
So I was like, oh, and so I went back to the ATV riders analogs and found that picture again. And so I was like, I got to put that up. How do you not? That's pretty cool.
How cool is that? Yeah, that was one of the things that I was thinking, and I assumed that. And it's funny you comment on this, but because leading up to the event, I had thought Casey at some point is probably going to question as it gets closer, because we're all human, right? You start to, the gears start to turn and you start to think about what you're about to, kind of embark on and all these things. And I'm like, man, at some point he's going to be like, man, it's been a while since I've done this. So yeah, just awesome thing. It's one of those things. It's just like a rider, right? Where if it's in your blood, if it's something that you truly enjoy doing, you just hop right back in. And like you said, it's like riding a bike. So I felt like that photo kind of encompassed, right, this whole thing of you just thrusting yourself right back into being a mechanic again. And yeah, I said to you before we started recording this, I thought that this is just such a cool opportunity to be able to sit back and listen to you and what you experienced there. I mean, obviously you're a regular. I would love to see how many episodes you've been on with us at this point. But also, you're a regular to the show, but you're also going to be an insider and a mechanic at the Quadcross of Nations event. Just what a cool opportunity for us. And last we talked to you, you were just, within a day or two of heading off to Europe. So obviously very much looking forward to, at that time, this conversation now we're here. So we'll take this thing kind of step by step on how everything went down, but starting at the top, tell me about the flight across the pond. I didn't know how long of a flight it was. And then, kind of your first impressions of the Czech Republic.
Yeah, I mean, flight was fine. I'm leaving Sunday, now I'm there Monday. So I get into Prague, and so it's a huge city. It's like a Chicago and New York. It's a big city. And you're like, oh, this ain't that bad. It ain't that different. And I've been to Europe, so I kind of know what to expect in some sense. But I had never been to the Czech Republic. So we dip over, get to the town that we're staying in. Awesome place that we stayed at. It's like a big old school castle. It was pink, which was odd. Okay. But everyone was kind of there by that point. So next day, we go out to the container, get the bikes out, go through the bikes, little odds and end things. get everything kind of settled in, so then we can go for Wednesday for our, to actually go ride the bikes. Well, here come the rain. And so then it's a big question. Are we actually going to be able to go ride at this place, on Wednesday? So the riders, team manager, and Harv all had to go to a press conference, which I think a lot of people seen the pictures of.
Yep.
Which was really cool to do. It's in Prague, so it was like a 2-hour drive. So the mechanics and all of us, we all loaded up and went and loaded bikes up and got everything ready and went out to the track that we're going to test at and waited for the riders and Mark and everyone to get back from the press day thing, which the press day thing, I guess it went really well. Obviously we weren't there. We didn't get to see that part of it, but we ended up figuring out a part of the track. They did a little bit of work on the track that we were going to ride at, and we got to ride for, I think we rode 10, 15 minutes each just to make sure everything was good. The bikes have been sitting in the container for, pretty much a couple months. Baldwin prepared an excellent machine, not a single problem all weekend long. And that really solidified making my job easy. Mm-hmm. Not to say that the other bikes weren't prepared excellent either. I mean, they were all prepared, obviously these guys are, Gary built Joel's bike before it went over and they didn't have any issues with it. And, Chad had that one issue, which we'll get to later, but it was just a fluke thing. It wasn't anything to do with prep of the machine, so sure. I should say. So really the test day was pretty low key. The next day we showed up, we washed bikes, changed oils, clutches, did all the stuff, get everything ready to go for tech on Friday. So Thursday was just kind of a prep day, and we got done early. And that's kind of where it was like the cool day in a sense to get to go sightsee a little bit, get to enjoy the afternoon. So we got done, we got bikes prepped, everyone was done, we put everything away, the easy ups were all set up, table covers were all put on. I mean, Harv has that container and it's really cool. Like there's nice workbenches in there, there's everything you need in that thing. We have, snacks, everything that's all lined out. And Harv does 99% of that stuff. I mean, Sherry and Cindy obviously help out tremendously with that. But I mean, you can ask, where's the extra rolls of toilet paper? Harv's like, far back right corner, this toe with number 3 on it. Like he just knows, like he has that thing licked. And so that was really comforting because for us walking in there, we've never been in that container before, so we didn't know what we were walking into or where anything's at. And he had every rider stuff situated. He had all of our parts. This is Bryce's parts here. This is Chad's parts here, and in their totes, and everything was labeled and really really fine tuned. So by the time we got all that stuff done, we had a little bit of time left in the afternoon, and I wanted to go get some stuff for the kids and the wife and, just something from over there to bring home. So picked out some little trinkets and stuff for the kids and then pretty much went straight back to the hotel. And then we had our big team dinner. And that was kind of when pretty much everyone was there. All the riders were there. Everyone kind of come together. We went to a really cool restaurant and that was really cool for the vibe. We all went and took a picture by like this big water fountain that's in the center of the city. And that it's starting to build. You can feel, everything's starting to build and you're getting that, not pressure, but like the hype is coming.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All the riders are there. You're sitting there watching, Chad and Joel and Bryce like shoot the shit with each other, which isn't something that you're going to see on a normal basis. Those guys are in Bryce's ear talking to him like, hey, like, don't worry about, practice. It's just practice. And, we're talking about it. We're kind of strategizing, how many pipes we're going to tech and different things that are going on. So yeah, you start to feel the energy rolling towards, okay, this is really a race. We're not just here and goofing off.
Yeah, for sure. So it's Tuesday here for the listeners. It's Tuesday here as we're recording this thing, and Gloop's Rip It Up Films Part 1 segment of his Team USA video coverage just dropped this morning. So as I was preparing for this conversation and preparing to, assemble this review show for you guys, it was a ton of fun to see that. And we kind of saw up until kind of the tech day, basically. And what kind of stood out to me, watching everybody walk around, and I'm sure you guys were too, you're wearing all your Team USA garb, you're wearing, you a Team USA branded stuff, branded clothing and jackets and stuff like that, hats. And that's just gotta be the coolest thing. I mean, that's kind of what stood out to me, especially like at the test track. You can see people watching on. It's just like, man, here, like, everybody's so accessible, and over there, everybody that has anything to do with ATV racing is just so hyped to see Team USA. And then for you, Casey, I mean, not only are you wearing Team USA branded stuff, which is a really cool thing, but also like to just be a part of that, to be a part of the American crew that's, traveled across the, halfway across the world to race the Europeans on European soil. To be a part of that just has to be the coolest thing. We've talked about how cool it was going to be. And then as that process starts and you're saying the anticipation is building, that's just got to be, again, that has to be the most special feeling. It's got to be such an honor.
Yeah, for sure. And then, you kind of wear, when you go down in town, because we were so far from the actual racetrack, so we weren't seeing racers. We're pretty much seeing locals. And so you kind of have to walk a fine line. Like, they can already look at you and tell that you're not from there. And then you just like roll in like an American flag.
Okay. Yeah.
Most of the welcomes are very welcoming, and they're pretty cool with you. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you got to kind of walk a fine line there. Like, you don't want to overdo it.
Got it.
In some of these little towns where, so, you'd wear a hat or a hoodie or, whatever, but you weren't kind of done head to toe until come to like tech day.
Got it. What I must have seen, Casey, on the video was the guys going to the press conference thing then. So seeing that, seeing that mob of, Team USA guys was pretty cool. But now that you say that, I fully understand not wanting to walk into a little cafe and be like, we're Americans kind of thing. I totally get that too.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious for the most part, they, and obviously you don't speak the language, and you speak English. And they're like, no, do you speak Czech? You're like, I wish at this point, like, it would make my life a little easier, but thank God for Google Translate. We made it through no problem. Mm-hmm. We didn't have any real like over the top hiccups because of the language barrier, mainly because you have like, Google Translate. Mm-hmm. You can take a picture of a menu and it translates it over to English for you. Like, it's the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
Wow.
Like,
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah. Like, and they didn't, like, last time I was in Europe, it was 12 years ago or 10 years ago.
Different times.
And so we didn't have that kind of stuff, but luckily I had people with me that could translate very well for me, so it was no big deal.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, so come, tech day when we're there and we're, and then when you're at that track, like, you wear the red, white, and blue so proud, and everybody looks at you like because I mean, these guys, they love American ATV motocross, mm-hmm. In the US, and just as much as we love it. And the fans are so intense over there, and they're so cool. The kids, I mean, they idolize our riders, mm-hmm. And and even our crew, like everyone, like, they're coming up and talking to us. They want to hear from us. They want to know, all about the machines. They want to know, why is that pipe blue, but the one I get is gray? And they're so involved and so, right there with you. So yeah, when you get there, it's like you're full nines. Like, we're coordinating hats every night with each other. Like, I'm wearing my jacket, not my hoodie. Like, we're making sure, like, we're trying to look the best we can. And that was really cool, part of it. And it's a very, very proud feeling to walk in to a motocross track and represent our country. It's probably, it stacks pretty high up there in my, in the things that I've gotten to accomplish and achieve in this industry and what I've got to do.
Yeah, for sure. It's gotta be. And I'm such a nerd for like two-wheeled, motocross, supercross too, and Motocross of Nations, obviously. And, when I think of that, we got this now, with ATVs, that we go over to the Quadcross of Nations,
Yeah.
this. It's so cool. It's so cool because, again, like you see, we've talked about this, but you see the trickle down effect of not only how much those European ATV fans and racers love to see our guys over there, you guys over there, but also the bridge that we're starting to see on those Euro guys coming here too. Like it's just such an awesome thing for, kind of worldwide ATV racing, ATV motocross racing. It's just such a cool thing. And like I said, to nerd out on it, to see, just to see all the Team USA branded ATV stuff. If you would have told us 10 years ago that, we have a motocross of nations for quads that Team USA is going to and supporting, like, I think we would have all, at least I would have been blindsided by that. I didn't know that there was such a thing or would be such a thing. And the fact that we have this now is so cool. And just even for us, like all the coverage, the talking about it, the previews, the reviews, all this stuff, like, man, it's just been so much fun. And I think for a lot of people like you and I, a lot of it is just because we're so darn proud of our guys. We're proud of the people that they are, the way they represent us as Americans. And then we're just so proud of our country. I mean, it's just, again, it's the coolest thing.
Yeah, it's huge. And, I look at it the same way, as you do. Like, I'm fully into the dirt bike stuff and the MX Nations. And, we were checking updates and keeping an eye on those guys while we were over there too. So,
hey, time out for 1 second. So this worked out so cool. You guys started racing there on Sunday. The first moto was when Brooke and I left the house to head to Redbud for the Motocross of Nations. So like literally we're pulling out of the driveway and Moto 1 is happening for you guys. And so I watch every moto on the drive over there and all three motos. And when we get over there, I actually had to like drive by Redbud and like go park in a like a town hall little place, like just down the road so that I wouldn't lose service. So I could watch the end of the third moto for you guys over there. So first of all, it worked out sweet for me to be able to watch the Quadcross of Nations before, going and seeing Motocross of Nations in person. And then for them to talk about the Quadcross of Nations over the PA in front of 100,000 people or whatever were there at Redbud, talking about the Quadcross guys winning and getting this huge pump from the crowd. It was just the coolest thing. I'm like, man, how cool is this for ATV racing? Like, again, 10 years ago, this would have felt like a pipe dream. I truly believe that, at least to me. And now, man, we got the reaction out of the crowd about the quads winning the Quadcross of Nations.
Shit.
Yes, we got that much. We got like this big jump out of the crowd, like Team USA just won a moto there. I mean, it was wild.
No way.
I just wanted to comment on the parallels between the Motocross of Nations, Quadcross of Nations, that I knew that was something that you and I were both passionate about. And then it hit me as I was saying that, yeah, you might not know, most people might not know that, Tim Cotter and the boys up in the booth were plugging and hyping up Team USA winning the Quadcross of Nations in front of this giant crowd at the Motocross of Nations. So pretty darn cool. But yes, take it from Tech Day. Tell us about that, how all that went. And I'll continue to sit back and listen to how it all played out.
Yeah, so we roll in, Friday morning for Tech, kind of do our thing. We get bikes out, get everyone warmed up, get the bikes warmed up, and you have to have rider's helmet, jersey, chest protector. It's mandatory you wear a chest protector over there, or like a roost guard underneath your jersey, or you can wear one over. Just depends on, the riders. So like Bryce doesn't normally wear one. Mm-hmm. And so that was something when we did the test day, like he had to wear one that day so he could get comfortable with it and get it adjusted right and, figure out where he wanted it and all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. So we went up there to do that. And so I'm getting ready to roll out. I'm like, hey, Bryce, where's your helmet? We need our helmet. And, we had these full-blown custom painted helmets, which I think everyone's seen the pictures of them by now when, mm-hmm. They got released and then went to David gave them the helmets at the press conference on Wednesday. Well, Bryce had wore his helmet on test day. So it was a little bit muddy. So they had took it back to the hotel to clean it. So they forgot his helmet. So luckily we had people that were en route that, weren't too far away from the hotel. They went and grabbed his helmet. So everything kind of rolled off without a hitch, really, in that sense. By the time they got there, we rolled up to Tech, and Tech really it went smooth. You know, the Tech procedure is different there. And you go through a spreader bar, which was just like 2 stakes in the ground. So you got to go right through there. So then you kind of roll through, and then once you go through like that part of it, you know, it's not like really here where you just change your pipes real quick. They kind of want you to pull away, you change your pipe and come back in, change your pipe. And we really rolled right through it in the sense, you know, everyone was nervous. They do it at a wide open throttle. And it's basically just like a rock. And so it's completely different than what we're used to here. Yeah. So you run a little bit different of a pipe. There's a different fuel that we run over there. And we made it through smooth. So it was, you know, kind of one of those things, go back to the truck, wipe your bike down, kind of do your last minute checks because tomorrow morning's go time. You know, it's 8 o'clock in the morning. I think we didn't end up going on the track until 10, but there was a chance that we would have been on the track by 8:30. Okay. So we had to be there early, and we ended up finding out Friday night kind of late that we wouldn't be on the track till 10 because there's 2 ATV groups.
Okay.
We didn't know what group we're going to be into. We ended up being in the second group or B group or whatever it was. So all 3 riders get to go on the track together, which was really cool. And it was kind of, you know, there was nothing on the line there for that. It's not part of qualifying. It's just to go check the track out.
It's free practice, basically. Yeah.
It's just a free practice. But knowing how the guys are, and they're all competitive, you know, Joel clicks off a lap time. Bryce clicks off a lap time. They're looking at us like, what's my lap time? And we're like, you guys, like, just look at the track. But they want to know where they're at, like, instantly. So it's like, you show them, you know, each other's lap times, and they're like, oh, they pull in. I can beat that. But then they're back at it again, you know, dropping their lap times. And we end up, you know, Joel first, fastest lap time in the free practice, and Bryce was second. And I think Chad, just being Chad, he's just like, eh. And so it was cool to see Kevin Saar. He ended up third in that practice in lap times, and he was right there. So like we knew like those two, they were pushing pretty good. I mean, they were turning pretty dang good lap times. And
Kevin Saar pretty well acclimated with these American riders because he is a top 10 finisher in Digging Deep ATVMX Fantasy.
Oh, there you go. So
hell of a rider too. Hell of a rider.
Yeah, I mean he rode great all weekend. I think he ended up having some kind of mechanical in one of the motos
in the first moto. Yep.
But you know, we have 3 such solid riders. Like there's a lot of fast guys over there. I mean, Kevin, I think he's like 8-time or 9-time European champion. I mean, it's crazy how many championships, you know, and how established he is over there. And so to see his lap times, I mean, they were fairly close. He wasn't but like maybe a half second off of Bryce's time or so, and you know, a little over a second off of Joel or something like that. So it was cool to see, you know, like we're not just going to show up and walk all over like everyone always thinks. Like it's not like that. Like these boys got to go and they got to show up and they got to race. And there's so many different elements. You got to start second row, and you know, Bryce. I don't know that Bryce has done. I'll be pretty comfortable saying that Bryce hasn't done a second row start besides over there in the last 10 years.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
You know, if he ever has. And so in qualifying, like, and then they are in practice, and then they do like a start practice, just like we do here, very similar.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, don't practice any start. Just line up right behind Joel and do second row starts with Joel, and then go do one with Chad, go do one with Joel, go do one with Chad. And I'm just like cringing the entire time because we're just beating the crap out of the front of the machine, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Just, and the soil had a lot of rocks in it.
Okay. I thought I saw that. Yeah.
Very similar to Unadilla dirt, maybe a little bit looser than Unadilla dirt, and probably 50% rockier than Unadilla, but like the same size
rocks.
Yeah, like those, you know, the ones that really hurt.
Yeah, and that is a perfect opportunity for me to ask you the first impressions of the track for you guys and the guys and the riders, because we heard, we talked at length about the track as best we could coming into the event. Seemed like it wasn't that far off from kind of an American style racetrack, not tons and tons of jumps or anything, but give us first impressions of the track as well.
Honestly, very Euro, really. I mean, I watched a lot of video and stuff before I went over there, and it really didn't do the speeds justice of how fast the track actually was, and not very many jumps, couple tabletops. The downhill there was insane.
The guys, even the video made it look wild. Like you were free falling off that thing and fly like at least the American guys, they were ripping off that thing. Am I right?
Yeah, and like those guys aren't scared. Like they just wide open off the top of the and I went and stood up there at one point. I'm just like, holy crap. And you're just wide open all the way to the bottom of the hill to a roller.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna turn. And as soon as I seen the track, I said, this is a Bryce and Joel track all day long.
I was going to say, you made the Unadilla comparison already. So yeah, that explains it for itself.
So I knew it wasn't, obviously Chad was going to be plenty fast. It wasn't going to be something that held us back whatsoever. And, he's just going to go to the level that he needs to go to do what he has to do. And that's where Chad's going to go.
Yeah.
Or I knew like Bryce and Joel were going to excel. I felt like on this style track, and that's what we've seen. I mean, those guys were really fast, and there was a jump, like it's just like a flatland jump, but it had meters checked off on the K rail next to it, and you'll see it in the videos.
Okay.
And it was like, I don't want to say a competition, but it was a topic like, how far are you going to go? And I think the last numbers were like 35 meters, and then they had the infinity sign right after that. Like if you went there, like, Bryce is like, I'm going infinity. I'm like, all right, Buzz Lightyear. Like, I'm like, chill out, bro. Like, we don't need to break axles. We don't need to bend axles.
Remember why we're here. Yeah.
You're coming up a massive hill to that point. So you're just wide open. And but Joel was the same way. He's like, I'm jumping the whole thing. I'm jumping as far as I can. I'm like, oh my God, like you guys. And right. I think they definitely went the furthest out of everybody. I don't know that I ever paid attention enough to see which one of those two went the furthest out of each other, because I think they definitely had a competition going on who wanted to go the furthest there, but it really comes down to how much your ankles can handle.
Right.
But track I liked it besides the rock factor of it. And then by like the third moto, I mean, thank God, all three of those guys run tire balls. And I know Bryce had a right rear flat, which he never even knew. And I want to say Joel possibly ended up with a flat, but there were so many guys that come in the mechanics area with flat tires.
Oh, sure.
Front tires flat, rear tires flat, because you're going so fast and you're landing on rocks. And, they're only getting sharper and sharper as the day goes on because they're getting deeper and deeper.
Right.
So that was, a big factor, like mentally late in the moto, say like that third moto, I think is really when it kind of started to set in with me. I'm like, all right, avoid the rocks, like avoid all these little things that could really cause us, because we're sitting perfect. Bryce, he ripped a good start, which we'll get there. I'm getting ahead of our game.
Yeah, no, you're good. So but tire balls only in the rear though, right? I mean, these guys aren't running tire balls in the front as well, are they?
No tire balls in the front.
Yeah.
But they are running beadlocks. So, for the majority of the guys out there are all running beadlocks nowadays. And I think for the situation at hand, I think if we were to blow a front tire, if it was early enough, we would have changed it. If it was later in the moto, I think you're just going to have to deal with it. The track's fast enough that the tire's going to stay somewhat.
It'll stay up.
Structured.
Yeah.
It's going to suck. Say you blow your right front, when you go to turn left, it's really going to suck. It's going to be a handful, but at the same time, the amount of time to change it would have cost us if it was later in the race, where I think they could have held on, and we had some cushion there with, where the other teams, had bad results. We had, the one bad result that we obviously knew we were going to throw away. as long as we were keeping our guys in the top 10, we were going to be pretty safe with at least one of our guys winning, and kind of but there, in your mind you're like, holy crap, like there's so many rocks, radiators come into play, like hose clamps, just all the little things that can come into play when you have that amount of rocks going on the track. But we fared well in that sense, so it was nice.
and maybe this year the rocks are going to be what we remember from this event, because I guess what I meant, and I probably didn't articulate it well enough. I mean, yes, you can tell it's like a Euro style racetrack, but I forget what locations are what, but the last two that we went to, one of the races was super sandy. Obviously that's the last one we were at, was the super sandy year, and the ruts were super deep and straight up and down. And we had, all that, like that was a topic in itself, right? That for that race. So that was totally different than what we race here. That was the year that Jeffrey was there. And then the other year, it seemed like that track was just cut out of a hillside with like no real obstacles. And, it just got crazy, like rough, because it seemed like this virgin dirt. This just seemed like a little bit more like of a racetrack like we somewhat see here, right? Like there wasn't a ton of jumps, but there was some jumps. Like it got kind of hard packed or whatever. Like it just wasn't something that was totally foreign for our guys. And we've seen that at some of these tracks and these races, that the racetrack just seems totally foreign from what we're used to. That wasn't the case here, but yeah, we should continue with the story then, because so on a personal level, due to our wedding, I wasn't able to check out much of the racing on Saturday, the qualifying races. And like I said, Sunday, I was able to catch it all. It was super nice. But yeah, Casey, tell me about the qualifying races then. It seems like everybody did real well. Our guys did, but take me through Saturday a little bit.
Yeah. Hey, and congratulations to you and Brooke. She's real lucky to have a guy like you.
Thank you.
I'll tell you that.
I'm lucky to have her.
Yeah, that's for sure. No, Saturday is cool. So we did pre-practice, and then Bryce was first moto. He was rider A. So he was the first rider, which I was really stoked about. Like, I just wanted him to get on the track and get it over with. Like, once you're on there and you do it, like, all the jitters are gone. Like, you got to go race against somebody. You got to take a gate drop. Everything kind of, falls into place after that. I think it smooths out a little bit. There's just so much nervousness and so many jitters going on before. So,
yeah,
it's a random pick. There's no way to pick for the qualifiers. They just put everyone in a hat. Well, I think it's computer randomized. So Bryce ended up 15th gate pick. So he was first gate pick for the second row. And he's the only American in our qualifier. Like, they're each in their own qualifier.
Right.
So he's got to pick, like, who do you go behind, because you don't really know everybody.
Yeah.
And so you don't know who the good starters are. You don't know who the guys that, maybe aren't up to the same speed. So Chad, Joel, like, they're all up there, like, all right, let's study everyone that's there. They're working with Bryce, and we're all talking about it. And so we come up with the idea of going behind Mark, the guy that come over at Redbud.
Yeah.
And I don't want to botch his last name. So, but he, they won
McLaren or something like that. Yeah.
McLaren.
Yep.
So we come up with a theory that we're going to go behind him. Well, then right before, we find out that he injured himself in practice.
Oh.
And so we're like, hey, and the Ireland dudes are so cool.
Yeah.
Like, we hung out with them at the test track. Like, they're so friendly, and like, just like, their sense of humor is just amazing. Like, we had a great time with them, just shooting the shit and telling stories. And so we kind of felt like we had a good relationship with them. So I'm like, Bryce, just go over and ask him, like, is he going to go, or is he not going to be like 100% to be able to go out there? Like, is he a good choice? Because our initial thought, because Kevin Saar was in our qualifier, is I'm like, you're going to line up behind Kevin Saar. He's multi-time European champion. Like, he's the guy.
Yeah.
You want to line up behind him. Yep. He had like 14th gate pick.
Oh, so he didn't have an ideal spot. Yeah.
Yeah, he didn't have a good spot. So Mark had like third gate pick. So we're like, okay, that's who we got to go with. And Mark's like, I'm going to try to rip the whole shot and just hang on for dear life. And Bryce said, all right, cool. So going in the first turn, Bryce is like almost dead last, which we can't see. You can go into staging, but you can't go to the starting line with the rider.
Yeah.
So, which is a little bit different for them, for the riders and for us as mechanics. Like we're used to being there, prepping the gate for them, getting them ready to go.
Yeah,
so the rider
totally
preps their own gate. Once they pull out of staging, they're off limits. You can look at them through the chain link fence, like, we're like a step below them, like say 4 or 5 foot below them. So you can look up there and kind of see where they're at and see what's going on. And so for us, the starting line was really long and made a right-hand sweeper. We couldn't see any of it.
Okay.
So Mark would stay in staging in case something crazy went on and we needed someone up there or whatever. And so once they rolled up to the gate and they were in their locked position, like pretty much nothing else we can do. Mark would stay up in staging just in case something was to go awry. And us as mechanics, we would run down to the mechanics area. So the first thing all you hear is just from Harv, because he's pretty close to the first turn. So he can tell us where, our guys are at.
Mm-hmm.
The Bryce goes in the first turn, and the first right-hander pretty much dead last. But he's like in the pack. Like he's right there with them. And by the time he comes to the second one and dropped off the drop-off is the first time I got to see him. And so there's basically a right-hander and a left-hander, and then like a short straight, and you drop off to go down the hill. I just started counting until I seen. I'm like, okay, that's second row start ever. You pretty much pulled like a 6th, 7th place out of it.
Okay.
But I guess he worked some magic somehow in the second corner from what I've been told, because he was pretty far back going into the first corner. Like when they made the right in the middle of that corner, he was way, almost last. So he wiggled his way through. And so I'm like, all right, we can deal with this. So first lap comes by, he's in 6th when he comes by me. I'm like, all right, no big deal. We got plenty of time. It's 20 minutes plus 2 laps.
Mm-hmm.
Good to go. Just kind of pacing him, just letting him know where he's at, what's going on. And I just see him, he's one after another. Next time someone comes over the radio, Bryce P5. All right, Bryce P4, Bryce P3. I'm like, sweet. We're just working our way up.
Mm-hmm.
So he gets into second. And I'm kind of like trying to keep it pretty calm the entire time. Like, you got plenty of time. You're 1.5 seconds faster than the leader. Like, you got this. Like, you're good. So he gets in the second. I just write on the pit board, go get him. Like, go win. Like, let's win,
Yeah.
Be a winner. So I throw the pit board to him. I don't know if he's seen it or not. Like 5 corners later, it's on the other side of the track. We can't see it. A rock rolls down into the rut. He hits the rock with his right front tire, pops him out of the rut, sets him on top of the berm, and he gets high center.
Oh, shoot.
So he had to rock himself out of it, so he goes back to 4th. So he comes by me P2, and he's like only like 4 or 5 seconds behind the leader. He's closing on the leader big time. Like, he's going to get to win his first race over in Europe. He's going to get to win the qualifier. Like, this is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Stubb, has that issue in the corner. Gets going again, he's P4, and I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm like, damn it. But we're fine. Like, it's not a big deal. It's just a qualifier for gate pick for Sunday.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And we still have 2 more guys.
Mm-hmm.
So you're only going to take the 2 best scores anyway. So it doesn't really matter. Like, or even if you combine them all, if he finished 4th and those 2 finished 1-1, like, we still have first gate pick. So it's no big deal.
Right.
So I'm like, all right, you got work to do. This is how much time you got left. So he starts picking away. And by the time he gets back into second position, I think the leader, there was 2 laps to go, and he had 12 seconds to the leader. And so I show him that on the pit board, and he just kind of like looks over, and I'm like, no, like, don't even bother. Like, you're good. Take the second. And he was pretty hard on himself over it all day. I think he really wanted to win that qualifier. I think it just to kind of set the tone for the whole weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But he learned a lot. He got to do his first second row start. He got to work his way through the pack twice, and he learned how he was going to be raced and how he needed to race the guys he was racing against, because going into the first moto on Sunday, he was going to be second gate pit or second row start again. But this time he's going to get to start behind someone he knows at least, but he's still going to have to – your chances of coming out and hole shotting or, being second are rather slim when you're starting second row. So Joel goes out, or Chad goes out for his, does Chad. I mean, knocked it out of the park. He wins fairly easy. Joel went out for his, same thing. We didn't get to watch those races, so I don't have a whole lot of insight on every little thing. I know Chad pulled the whole shot, and I know Joe pulled the whole shot, and I think that's pretty much how the story gets told, it's pretty much game over from there.
We'll get right back to the show, but now a word from our sponsors. And thank you for listening to these ads. Without these great companies, none of this would be possible. Show your support for the people who support us. We used to speak of a CST takeover, but now 2022 is the year of CST supremacy. CST's Pulse MXR tires are the choice of Joel Hetrick, Jeffrey Rastrelli, and Nick Janusa, meaning CST tire riders are in contention for pro class wins and a possible podium sweep every time they hit the racetrack. CST tires are also the official tire choice of the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, but you already knew that. I, your host Cody Jansen, helped pioneer the CST takeover with Pulse MXR fronts and white label soft compound rears on my way to back-to-back national championships and a pro sport podium to cap off the 2021 season. The Pulse MXR tire, available in soft and standard compounds, offer the highest level of traction, most predictable cornering, and superior wear characteristics when compared to the competition. Did I mention they offer contingency payouts as well? Visit shop.CST Tires to join the CST takeover today or prepare to be beat by someone who did. Joel Hetrick, Jeffrey Rastrelli, Nick Janusa, myself, and so many more believe and trust in CST Tires. Do you? You already know we're Team Blue Crew now more than ever here at the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. And whether it's 8-time and reigning ATVMX Pro Class National Champion Chad Wienen, who with his next championship will become the winningest champion in ATV motocross history, or 7-time and current XC1 Pro ATV GNCC National Champion Walker Fowler, who is now tied for second all-time in titles won, it's clear the podium-proven Yamaha YFZ 450R is the winning choice of sport ATVs. This continued and unprecedented success for the Yamaha YFZ 450R, its unrivaled quality and performance, and the undisputable fact that Yamaha is the leading OEM supporter of ATV racing has resulted in an ever-growing Yamaha takeover within the sport quad market. Best yet, Yamaha's Blue Crew Racer Support Program is back and stronger than ever here in 2022, meaning Yamaha riders will once again cash in on payouts and prize opportunities, including a chance to win a brand new YFZ 450R. For more info, head over to YamahaBlueCrew.com, follow them at Yamaha Outdoors on social media, and check out Yamaha's full proven off-road lineup at YamahaOutdoors.com today. SSI Decals is a name synonymous with ATV racing, synonymous with big-time success, and absolutely synonymous with the best-looking decals around. An offshoot of their parent company that was established in 1947, SSI first took shape from owner Ian Harris's passion for ATVs. With what started as just making numbers and decals for riders like Chad Wienen, the company quickly took off, and today you couldn't imagine ATV motocross without SSI decals. The graphics maker and designer now supports all the top teams in ATV motocross, as well as teams and riders racing GNCC, Work Series, Pro Motocross and Supercross, Canadian Pro Motocross, short course off-road trucks, UTVs, snowcross, and, oh yeah, 6-time world champion top fuel drag racer Clay Milligan. No project is too big or too small for SSI decals, making your identity stick with championship level graphics. Head over to SSIDecals.com today and then maybe call the doctor because things are about to get sick. The Digging Deep ATVMX podcast is brought to you in part by DID and their wide range of championship winning chains. From the street to the track and everywhere in between, DID chains are designed to give you the optimal riding experience with great performance and increased chain life. Consistent to the core, pick up your box of reliability today. DID, what drives you?
We are proud to be partnered with Namura Technologies. Since 2001, Namura has led the charge in the ATV and side-by-side market, covering more applications than anyone else in the industry. Namura's advanced piston technology uses a NASA-exclusive aluminum alloy that helps to reduce expansion rates, allows for tighter tolerances, and leads to higher overall engine performance for your machine. For more information about Namura's wide offerings of pistons, rings, gaskets, industry-leading top-end repair kits, and recently added connecting rods, visit your local dealer or online at www.namura.com. Namura Technologies, your one-stop shop engine component supplier. We are pleased to be partnered with Bronco ATV and UTV components. Bronco has been an industry leader in replacement hard parts and accessories for all makes and models for over 15 years. With a catalog that includes a full line of electrical components, engine internals and cylinders, shock and suspension parts, winches, clutch kits, valves, carb kits, bearing kits, and drive chain parts, Bronco is your hard parts source for whatever you need for whatever you ride. Available exclusively through distributors around the world. Visit your local dealer or online at broncoatv.com. Forworks Carbon's innovative lightweight products include top-notch seat covers, carbon fiber and plastic hoods, gas tank covers, exhaust shields, shock guards, and much more. Whether you have an ATV, UTV, or snowmobile, Forworks has the goodies that will improve your ride and make you salivate. We trust Forworks for increased function and a sexier look, and you should too. Forworks Carbon, always working hard to bring high-quality and innovative parts to the market. Check them out today at fwcarbon.com.
So leading into Sunday, Casey, I believe there's like a quiet confidence, right? There's, obviously everybody had done well on Saturday. We know the standard that Team USA has when they go to the Quadcross of Nations. So I feel like there's a quiet confidence. You would be able to tell us that. But we speculated on our preview show that crazy things always seem to happen at this race. And they really did, pretty much right away for the American squad, kind of getting into our Sunday coverage. Then it didn't take long. And that crazy card was played by the Quadcross of Nations gods.
Yeah, for sure. And, there is, somewhat of a confidence, like, you got the best guys there. We know we got the best machines. We know going in, like, we're ready. Mm-hmm. But there's so much that goes on that there's so many little things that can happen, and that's obviously what we've seen. Mm-hmm. Chad's out front, kind of doing this thing. Bryce is working his way through. I want to say Bryce come out 6th or 7th again. After the first couple corners, kind of worked his way. Started working his way up. He was like 4th. Kevin Sarr had an engine failure or had a failure. So Bryce is in 3rd. So he's good. And so I'm telling him, you're good. You got one more guy to get. It already beat the guy, or it already raced a little bit with the guy before that was in 2nd. And Chad's out front. And then all of a sudden we get a radio. Wienen's on the side of the track. And we're like, what? Like, this doesn't happen.
No, it does not. That's what makes it like, are you kidding me? Because at this team event, where every point is crucial, every finish in each moto is crucial. We've seen this once in well over a decade for Chad Wienen, and we see it, and I'm like, what are we seeing right now? So I'll let you carry on there, but yes, it's unbelievable, really.
So yeah, I mean, just a crazy little mechanical, and Chad's on the side of the track. So Bryce is, in P2, and I don't know how much to elaborate on that. I'm sure mm-hmm. You'll speak with Chad, and Chad can elaborate more on what actually went on there. Mm-hmm. I don't know that it's a huge secret or anything like that. It wasn't anyone's fault. It was just a
fluke
fail.
It's a fluke thing that goes on. I was seeing on the internet, I don't know, nobody told me to say or not say anything. I saw on the internet that it was a bearing carrier. And if that's the case, that's just something that happens. We've all had brand new bearing carriers fail, and we've had, worn out bearing carriers fail, and we've had, brand new bearing carriers be perfect, and we've had worn out bearing carriers be perfect, right? I mean, it's just one of those things that it's just one of those things that happens. It's like when Chad's chain broke or the clip broke or whatever at Redbud and stopped that streak a few years ago. It's like, well, it's just one of those things. DID is the best chain that there is for these things, and it's just one of those fluke things that had lasted perfect for the 8 years previous to that or whatever, and it's just one of those things that happens. It's nobody's fault. He could have done nothing differently.
Yeah, so basically bearing carrier, and who knows, with all the rocks and everything that was going on, like really where that came from, just highly unlikely. Mm-hmm. So Chad being Chad, didn't even react, pulls off the side of the track, looks down, just like when he broke a chain at Redbud. Mm-hmm. And we couldn't see him, but just I already know like exactly how Chad reacted, not even having to watch him. So then it was, the chatter over the radio, we got to get Chad's bike back because he's in Moto 2.
Yeah. Yep.
And Bryce is in 2nd when this goes down.
Okay.
I think he was battling with the guy in 2nd right at that exact same time.
Yeah.
So he makes the pass for the lead, and I'm like, look at this guy. All the shit that was talked, all this stuff going on out in the world and all this different thing, and here's Bryce Ford leading his first main event moto at Quadcross of Nations. So just like a cool feeling, obviously for me, but it just had to be unreal for him. And the rest of the day, I think for him, he was just on a cloud. Like just getting that win, get to, go up there and do the TV interview and talk and get to give credit to the people that got him there.
Yeah.
And that have put so much work into him being there and making it all happen. I think for him, it's just a dream come true. And he told me that, like, that was my dream right there. Like, to go and win, a moto at Quadcross of Nations representing my country is just like a dream come true. And then to actually win the overall, like for us as a team to win it, I think that's just, obviously the icing on the cake.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I wish that you could see my face when he wins this thing. I was like nearly emotional because it's the same thing. I mean, I wanted it for him so bad. I wanted him to be able to kind of silence the critics so bad. I've said that for months at this point. I just wanted it so bad for him and for him to step up the way he did. So I'll read my notes here. You kind of previewed their, prefaced this already and went through it a little bit, but from the highest of highs to the lowest of lows to start the day for Team USA in the Czech Republic, Chad Wienen officially is scored with 29th in Moto 1 after he suffers this mechanical failure. And your guy, our guy, Bryce Ford, he knew he needed to maximize points, and did he ever? He charged to the front of the pack to win the opening moto of the 2022 Quadcross of Nations for the American team. It was his first ever moto in the event, other than the qualifying motos, but those only count for gate pick. So this was first ever moto at the event. He wins the thing. And after all the debate about this controversial pick, if he's the right guy heading into the event and blah, 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 he shows up and shows out for our country. And like you said, I mean, talk about what an awesome start to the day. What a perfect start to the day for Bryce Ford. And just to step up that way, it's got to be so cool. And you kind of told us already, but I was so excited to hear your perspective, working the pit board for him and just, to battle through the pack to get to the front and then to seize that moto, knowing that Chad Wienen had broke. So he needed to maximize points at that point. And for him to get that moto win, man, I told the Ford family, I was so stoked. I felt like I won.
Yeah. I'm right there with you, Cody. I mean, I ain't gonna lie, like, I've known that kid for a long time. I put a lot of effort over the years into his program and spent lots of time with that entire family, and I love him dearly. And it was like seeing my little brother just win the World Series or the Super Bowl. I mean, that was our Super Bowl. And so to see him, get that win, and just a big middle finger to every single person that just like, oh, he's not the right guy, he's gonna do this, it's gonna be that, like, all that's gone. Everything is just like pure, like, I was right there with you. Like, I was just like, holy crap, like, I'm walking up and I Saturday morning I come down with, I mean, a bunch of us end up coming down with it, but I come down with this nasty stomach virus, so like I can't even be myself. At this point, like, I'm in so much pain. I'm scared to move too fast. Like, so much different crap going on in my mind. Yeah. But like, here is, like, my little brother just wins, and I'm like, holy crap! Like, he's my rider. Like, we're professionals, but at the same time, like, there's so much that's behind it, and so much has been building to this point for him, and to get that moto win, it was just like, all right, cool. Like, it was almost like just like a breath, like just a release of like the pressure and all the bullshit aside, just everything was gone. Like, going into the third moto, like, we all knew what was on the line. We all knew what those guys had to do. Yeah. And like, going in there, like, Bryce knew he had a chance at winning the overall of the weekend. Like, if he would have got second in the first moto, like, the pressure would have been like, he had to win to be able to even have a chance at the overall, which he still did because him and Joel were going in tied. And, it really just comes down to, the overall reason we're there at that point. Like, the personal overall is kind of out. in that sense. Like, you're just going to go out and do what you got to do. So,
right.
Yeah.
I just, for me, Casey, it was like the dream scenario. That's literally what I was thinking as, the dust settles on this and I'm driving down the road to the Motocross of Nations and I'm trying to think about, cause I don't know how many people are watching this from the States at this point. So I'm like, well, got to put out a post on Digging Deep on our social channels about, Bryce winning it. And I'm like, I'm at a loss for words. I don't even know what to say. Like, it was like the dream scenario. Now, again, highest of highs, lowest of lows. Chad Wienen has broke. So that was the worst way that it could have started for one of our team members. But for the other team member to, especially like with the story we know, leading up to this race with Bryce and his selection and all these things, it was the dream scenario that he went out there and he didn't like grab the whole shot and just cruise around out front. Like, he had to pass the fastest guys in that race, other than Chad, obviously, who broke, to go win this thing. And at that point, the words that I chose to use were, he put the team on his back in that opening moto. And he did, because there was two guys out there. One of them broke and the other, the best thing he could do is win. And that's what he did. And it was just amazing. It makes the hair on my arm stand up right now because of all the conversations that were had, the debates that were had, the stray bullets that were, shot towards this kid that didn't deserve him. He's such a good kid. And then for him to just go up on the podium and talk about how much it meant to him and how happy he was, and that it was a dream for him, that this was a dream of his, to represent our country, and then to go win in the opening moto of the morning there. Man, that's just the coolest thing. So Bryce's performance was absolutely huge, but the reality of the situation was now, we had already used up our one and only throwaway was now used up. So Team USA sat in 7th after the opening moto there. And, now we had no room for error. With 2 full motos remaining for the riders, Casey, we had no room for error. So I guess what I wanted to ask you was how things were under the tent. Like, was there some tenseness under the tent at that point after, like you said? Now, I didn't know that it was just a bearing carrier at that time. I thought maybe it was an engine or who knows what. So I'm like, well, they need to get Chad's bike together. Like, I assumed at the beginning of my thing,
Sure.
I'm like,
we're thinking the same thing,
right? I'm like, that's got to be everybody's concern under that tent, is everybody, all hands on deck, get Chad's bike ready. But being that it was a bearing carrier, that probably wasn't the case. That was probably pretty standard. But yeah, tell me what the tent was like after that moto, because like I said, highest of highs, lowest of lows. So tell me about that.
I think the longest process was getting the bike from the
Back.
track back to our pits.
Sure.
It seemed like it was forever. We're like, come on, like, because we got to get this done. Like, the Moto 1 to Moto 2 is the tightest motos of the day.
Yeah. Yep.
Those two, there's not a whole lot of time. And that was kind of one of the reasons that we put Chad, row 1 and Bryce row 2. Bryce had Moto 1 and Moto 3. He had the most recovery time of the day.
Sure.
For every, out of all the riders and everyone. So, if he had to work his butt off the first one, he had enough time to recover. Where if Chad had to start second row and work his butt off the first one, like, he had to go roll right in. And so we knew it'd be harder on the bike. We knew, there's a good chance that we probably wouldn't wash in between Moto 1 and Moto 2, just because the time was tighter than normal. And just, changing clutch, getting the bike prepped, ready to go, it was easier just not wash. And so if Chad was out front, like, obviously his bike would have stayed cleaner and that kind of stuff, where I had all the time in the world to say in between motos to get my bike prepped and do whatever I needed to do. So really it was a team thing though, like it didn't get tense. No one got uptight. Everyone knew their place. By the time the bike got back, all the parts were laid out. Michael and Mark were already back at the truck. David and JB stayed with the bike because it just so happened when the carrier failed, it was really close to where they were at. So they stayed with the machine so Chad could go back and start his recovery.
Okay.
And Michael headed straight back. Baldwin said, hey, you boys are good here. I'm going back. So obviously I was in the mechanics area. They went back. They got all the parts laid out, had everything. It was like a seamless process. Swapped carriers, an axle, sprocket, chain, everything. And they were good to go, laughing and joking before we went down for the second moto.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So
Yeah.
it was never like a high stress. I mean, obviously, like, we knew time was not on our side,
Mm-hmm.
but when you got guys, Michael's a great mechanic. Obviously, you got Mark Baldwin, JB's right there. Like, those guys were free hands to be able to help Michael with anything he needed. And then obviously Chad's a great mechanic himself. So there was plenty, where Jim was focused on getting his bike ready for their moto coming up. I was focused on getting Bryce's bike cleaned up and getting it ready for the third moto.
Yep.
Where we didn't have to jump in and help. If we needed, need be, we would have jumped right in and helped.
Sure.
But we have the staff in place over there that, with the personnel that we bring, that it was never, there was never like a nervous time, like where we wouldn't be able to get stuff done, because we have, in any situation that we had through the whole weekend, because we had such a high quality staff over there.
And I guess the nervous part in my mind, or the mental shift that would have to happen is, presumably, like, you don't plan for having some kind of mechanical failure. So when you have the three best guys at the event, things happen obviously in racing, but you think, okay, well, we have this get out of jail free card. We got this free pass. We got this throw out that we keep in our back pocket. Well, you use it up in the first moto, and now it's like, okay, like, we don't have any room for error anymore. Like, I knew you guys had it covered. Like, I knew you'd have.
That's where the, like, it's a little bit more tense.
Exactly. That was where my question came from.
I'm thinking like a mechanic, just because that's all, like, that's what I know. So I'm thinking,
right.
Everyone wants to know, could we get it done in time? But no, definitely, a little bit added pressure onto everybody, I'd say, because you don't have that mulligan anymore. Mulligan's gone.
Exactly.
It's all business from here on out. Like, we got to be perfect the rest of the day to pull this off. And I don't care what anyone says. Like, you put these colors on and you go out there to represent this country. Like, there's pressure there. Like, your mindset is to be perfect. And with some of the elements that were floating around the team that day and sicknesses and stuff, it was tough. Like, I ain't gonna lie. Like, there's times I'm like, holy crap, like, what did I sign up for? And I never had to do anything over the top extra.
Right.
Yeah. But I was just so down in the dumps, like, feeling so terrible, that it made it that much harder to get through the days, on Saturday, being sick all day and then not getting much sleep Saturday night, and then rolling into Sunday, knowing, like, you got to be the best person. Like, I apologize to Bryce, like, multiple times. I'm like, I'm sorry. I know why you picked me, and I can't be that guy today. Like, I'm not 100%. Like, I'm not in your ear just constantly. Like, I'm really just trying to stay away from you so you don't end up with this shit.
Right.
Like, but at the same time, like, just let me be with the bike and I'll do what I need to do. And, obviously Mark is there, that's his bike. And so I could see it and I understand it, but, like, he would just come by and he would do it with everyone, but, like, he would come back by and just, like, look at the bike and look over everything. Like, and my ego is like, dude, quit checking. Like, I've done this before. It's not my first day. But at the same time, like, I understand, like, that's his baby.
Yeah.
And he wants to make sure, and, he wants to make sure every little thing is, and I touched every single nut and bolt on that entire bike. I don't know how many freaking times. And I never once, like, brand new out of the container, nut and bolted the whole bike, not a single loose bolt or nut on the entire bike. We went and rode it the first time, 10, 15 minutes put on it. Not anything come loose on that machine one bit the entire time, the whole weekend. Like, that was a dream for me, that, like, I wasn't chasing gremlins or any kind of crazy problems all weekend. Being under the weather, that was a saving grace.
That paid
like
off.
if we would have lost a motor or something goofy and I would have had to scramble and, like, actually work hard and fast, dude, I don't know that I had it in me. Like, I was so depleted Luckily, we had Mark there and JB there. Like, we would have been just fine,
Mm-hmm.
but I would have felt like an ant on the ground by the time that was over with if I had to have someone step in and do my job for me.
Yeah. I mean, we knew that, the first I had heard about the sickness was Joel dealing with it on race day. But yeah, then as the kind of the story unfolds and I heard more and more, it was that a lot of you guys were dealing with the sickness at the event and in the time period after that. So the other thing I do want to mention here for a second, and I meant to mention this earlier, was how the event works. Now I know that like most of our listeners, I know we've been talking about this now for an hour plus, but most of our listeners know this already. But we did receive some questions about how the event worked. So quickly, the team aspect of the Quadcross of Nations is what makes this event unlike any other. It's essentially the Olympics of ATV racing. Each competing country is represented by the 3 best athletes that their nation has to offer at this annual traveling event. Its 3-moto format ensures that each team member races twice, with 5 scores being used towards the Olympic style scoring, which means lowest score wins, and 1 moto being dropped, the worst finish between the 3 countrymen. So that's why we've obviously talked about Chad Wienen dropping that moto for the team, his first moto when he suffered that DNF. And this seems like the perfect time to get Chad Wienen in here, one of the stars of the show, to talk about a crazy day at the races, a crazy chapter in the story of Team USA at the Quadcross of Nations. So let's get Chad Wienen in here to talk about it. All right, guys, this next guest should probably be referred to as Captain America because he's been a team member and a winner at all 4 Quadcross of Nations events that Team USA has won. Brought to you by our friends at DID Racing Chain and their 520 ATV2 X-Ring chain, coming off his latest Quadcross of Nations event win. Welcome back, ATV motocross living legend himself, Mr. Chad Wienen. Chad, congrats on the W. How's it going, pal?
Yeah, thank you, Cody. It's going good. Thanks for having me on. It's we stayed an extra week after to vacation with the family, and it's nice to get back here and be able to talk about it with you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for me, like on my end, I always want to get these shows out as fast as possible, right? Because that's how we are. Like we want to consume stuff as it's fresh, but I knew that we needed to give you guys a little time to decompress and enjoy yourselves. And I mean, when you talk about too the extra prep that goes in, the 6 weeks or whatever of prep and stuff that extends your season to go over to this race, I wanted to give you guys a little time to decompress and enjoy yourselves before we jumped right into talking about these races. So first of all, I appreciate, your time and hopping on here with me and stuff. But there's a lot to talk about, with this event, Chad, and then with you specifically. So I'm going to jump right in here. You're leading this first moto, right? You're leading the first moto of the Sunday racing, the racing that counts towards the event, and everything's going according to plan. And then you suffer this mechanical failure. And in the context of us knowing that you've basically dealt with one mechanical over the last 11 seasons, you almost had to be in disbelief, Chad.
I mean, I really was. I still am, over it, but we had a bearing failure on the carrier, and brutally honest, we took that machine over there from the race that we raced on at was the 4th of July weekend. We were out at
Pleasure Valley.
Yeah. So we just basically took the machine, we went through it, and that bearing carrier had that one race on it was all. So it's kind of, I think it has something to do with, washing the machine and then let it sit in a container for, 2 months. So it's, I think it has something related to do with that. But, yeah, I mean, I'm still scratching my head over it, how that happened, but it's a machine. Things happen like that, and it's almost like a blessing in disguise that if we have something like that, it happens there because we do have one throwout, but also it's a lot of stress on the team at that point. But everybody, the riders, the team, everybody stepped up, and we made it work. And it always seems like we have something go on like that every year, like year one with Joel and then Thomas at the following. So it's like you're always you're always kind of on the edge of your seat. We don't make it quite easy on ourselves in that aspect, but I think it makes it exciting for the event because it shows that we're not leading right away. And, but we work hard that we don't want to have those problems. And it's just one of those things that, you know, we got to digest it and focus forward.
It's just one of those things. I think I said it with Casey on the show earlier. You wouldn't have heard that part, but you know, there's bearing carriers that last, you know, we've all probably had it happen where you have a bearing carrier that's brand new that, you know, fails right away, like things just happen. And then you have ones that are brand new that last forever. You have used ones that got 1 million hours on them, and you could just, you know, it's just one of those things. It just happens. There's probably no real answer to it, but I was in disbelief too. And it's one of those things that coming into the event, we talked about on the preview show, that crazy things just seem to happen at this event. And for us to have it happen to us right away, you know, to put our backs against the wall right away is just one of those things. So like you said, you have that, throw it in your back pocket. Thank God for that. At the same time, you know, now your whole mind and thinking as a team kind of changes because now your room for error isn't there anymore, you know? So, so I would assume that as you go into these motos and, you know, say, you know, you guys are 1-2 in the first one and then maybe 1-2 in the second one in an alternate universe, like, okay, now it's like, okay, we got this, throw it in our back pocket. If anything happens, when you take away that, you know, that trump card or that, you know, get out of jail free card right away, you know, it's just amps up the pressure, I would assume a little bit at least.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely does. Like you can't ride as loose as you want and, you know, charge stuff and make the passes, the risky passes that maybe you would or wouldn't do it before. And, you know, also with the condition of the track, there's a lot of rocks coming up. So it's like, I was sitting there watching that last moto and I'm like, Joel has a flat. I'm like, Bryce has a tire going low. I'm like, and you're watching all these other guys circulate that they got flat tires. And I'm like, man, like the rear tire is okay, but you have a front flat, like you're done. Like you're not make it. And, you know, I would say we lucked out, you know, and only having like a couple of rear flats with those guys, but man, like it's a stressful moment because, you know, especially for me, like I put the anchor out on our team, giving that first moto win away and putting that stress on our team. So for me, I feel like it was like the stress, like of watching that last race was like, man, just like ride cool, guys, you got this. And, you know, basically sitting on the edge of my seat the whole time until that last checker flag waved.
Yeah, it's got to be like a weird feeling for you too, to be sitting on the sidelines kind of, you know, just cheering on your guys. That's got to be such a weird thing. But much like the Redbud chain incident from a few years ago, you handled it like an absolute champ. No surprise there. And, you know, at the time, so as I'm watching all this go down, I'm worried about the time frame, right? Because I don't know what you had fail. You know, I didn't know it was a bearing carrier. I'm thinking it's an engine or something. I'm like, man, like these guys might have to get on it to get out there for that next moto. And then obviously that wasn't the case. Cause I mean, actually what Casey said was the biggest thing was getting the machine back to the pit area to get that bearing carrier changed. He said that's what took the most time.
That thing, it happened at the bottom of the hill. And this, like, the video doesn't show justice on how steep this hillside is. And I was like, we need to push this thing up because I haven't seen a machine around anywhere to pull machines back or anything like that. And I'm like, we need to push this thing up. We need like 6 of our team members down here to push it because with the bearing carrier, it letting go, like it's not rolling very well. So you got to practice up the rear end to get it going. And, you know, luckily I walked up to the top of the hill, got to the truck, and the machine wasn't even there yet. So I would say it took about 15 minutes or so to get the machine back there.
Sure.
And it was like, you know, we had it well under control. We threw everything new in the rear end and it went together really easy instead of trying to like Band-Aid stuff and put it back together. So it went quicker than what we anticipated, but we also knew that the time frame is very tight there. And, you know, it's like sometimes time can get away from you pretty quickly.
Yeah. It's crazy to think about that. So you have this go on in the first moto, right? And then moto 2 isn't really status quo either, because it seemed like, you guys had just settled into your pace. It seemed like Joel's leading, you're in second, you're basically matching each other's lap times. We've done this a million times before. And then not long, at least it didn't seem like it, but not long after midway, this race gets red flagged and ended up being deemed final because another rider goes down. So the outcome was exactly what we needed, but it almost, for you, Chad, had to be anticlimactic, because you would have been on your final lap of the weekend of the event, and you didn't even really know it at the time. That had to be the weirdest thing.
Yeah. I mean, like, knowing that when I seen the red flag, and I know like the rules of that, it has to be past like the halfway point, and for it to be like the final lap of the race. But still, like, I wasn't out, like, honestly, like, for me, like, I was perfectly okay with it being that it was, the last lap, because we were 1-2, we had a nice gap, anything that was going to happen was going to be bad,
right.
like,
yeah. Yep.
our case. But also, I think it was a blessing in disguise for Joel. Like, both of us were feeling under the weather, and he was a little bit worse than I was. He was like day one of his illness. So like, I think it was good for him, where he didn't have to exert himself for another like 15 minutes. So
yeah, good call there. We heard about the sickness stuff, which seemed crazy. It seemed like it got all of you guys, but yeah, just in my mind, it was the fact that, it was like almost like ripping the plug out of the, the wall, like all of a sudden, like, oh, we're done. Cause it was early enough in the race that I was like, well, like, I know we're past halfway, but not by much. Like, I didn't know how it was going to work out. In my mind, I was trying to figure out like how the restart process was going to go. Is it going to be single file or whatever? So like you said, the ultimate, the goal was achieved. We got the finish that we wanted. But it was just not a status quo race, very much like the first one, so kind of funny. So Chad, what did you think about the track?
Like, I thought that track was better as it got rougher, because like on it was so like terribly fast that like, and the ground was like kind of like unpredictable at times. So like, it was almost has like Glen Helen feel, where you'll be like good traction, and all of a sudden you'll grab like a patch where you just feel like ice. And I felt like that was like tough early on, but then once it got rougher, the pace slowed down and some lines got cut in, and it made it like a more enjoyable track. Like, I think the last moto, if I was like the last race of the day, I probably would have loved it, being that how rough it was. You got to be like very like particular on your lines and creative. And I think that plays into like my riding style a lot and what I like. But like, honestly, the jumps there's nothing that you hit full on the gas. Everything was chop throttle. Like, I like to have some bigger hits where you can like have some fun and, and do all that. But I would say it was better than, it was probably second to like Chingoli, the four races that we've done. So it was quite a bit better than the last two that we did.
That's what I thought too. That was kind of where I stood too. Obviously not being at these events, but watching them, I knew this wasn't necessarily like an American style racetrack, but it was a more American style than the last two. Like you said, whether super sandy and ruddy, or that one just seemed like it was cut out of a hillside, no slight to any of the tracks. It just seemed like this one was at least a little more, racy or whatever, like you guys are used to. So, and the other thing, man, it's so crazy to think about the rocks being that bad, that everybody is experiencing, flats. Thank God that you guys run tire balls in the rears and stuff, but just crazy to think that the rocks were that bad.
Yeah. I mean, that was the thing, that second race that I was in, I was like, man, I'm seeing a lot of like rocks come up, and I'm like, being very like cautious on how I'm hitting these lines and like ripping into these turns, where I'm not trying to, like, I'm okay if I get a rear flat, but if I get a front flat, like I said, that's going to be a terrible ride. But, yeah, I mean, we noticed that when we walked the track that there's going to be a lot of like rocks coming up, but we didn't notice that so much on Saturday, but definitely Sunday, like, it really started to come up pretty bad.
Yeah, that's wild. So, Chad, in the end, you did your part. you know, your teammates finished off the goal in Moto3 there. It looked like the celebration was amazing, though maybe it wasn't all that it could have been because everybody was kind of feeling under the weather and stuff. The Euro fans, I think we touched on that before we hit record on this. The Euro fans are amazing. They love to see you guys. So that's always cool. So how did the Czech Republic trip compare to the previous 3 trips? We know how you like the tracks. We know that you liked this track more than some of the others, but how did the trip compare to some of the other trips for you guys?
I think like the camaraderie of the team was really good. Like we all got along really well, jokingly, and like all the mechanics, everybody was getting along really well. So everybody's clicking. Like it's kind of like, you know, year one we're going over there not really to what to expect, and then every year it's like we got to go win. Like we can't like let our guard down. So it's like business as usual, like, you know, once you get to the track and do all that, but still there's a light atmosphere there because we're not racing against each other, we're racing with each other. And like the fans they're on a whole nother level over there. Like I said, like they bring their A game every year. Like I think it's very special for us to be able to, you know, experience that because you know, if we didn't have this event, we probably wouldn't really touch on that. We would, you know, just, I think like having each nation being so small over there, they all have a lot of pride in, you know, where they're from. So they bring that chip on their shoulder. And, you know, like over here, we're not so like, I mean, Texas is very, very proud of like where they're from. Like,
Yep.
Like I'm originally here from Illinois, so it's not like a big like pride thing to be from Illinois. I don't know. It's just not there. But yeah, it's really cool to be able to experience that with the fans and the smoke bombs, the horns and everything, and the people coming up to us. You know, I've probably signed more autographs this weekend than I have all year. You know, it's very cool to see that, and they're very kind people.
Yeah, I mean, just to see the pop that you get out of those fans over there, because they don't get to see you guys all the time, and they see you guys on social media and on YouTube and whatever, but you're superstars to them. Casey said it was basically an event like this would basically be like if you had, you know, a few thousand or whatever the number is in attendance, but every one of them is like the biggest super fan that we would ever see at our races. You know, like every one of them is a super fan. So I thought that that was actually kind of a cool way to think about it. And so you said that you talked about the smoke bombs, you talked about the crazy fans and all the countries and stuff. So I got to tell you this. So, you know, you guys go over there, you win number 4, you know, you keep the undefeated streak alive for Team USA. So I watched the event on my way to the Motocross of Nations here at Redbud. So watch the first moto right as I was leaving the house, you know, then the middle one was in the middle of our trip. The last one is literally as we're getting to Redbud. So I'm walking, Brooke and I are walking into the event, into Redbud, just got done parking, and we see Josh Pistol, who, you know, obviously you're super familiar with from Sunset Ridge. And, you know, it's starting to rain at the Motocross of Nations. It's crappy. It's not what they were really predicting. So everybody's nervous now that Team USA is going to get it done or not. And I said to Josh, I said, is Team USA going to get it done today? And he said, yeah, both of them are, the quads and the bikes. And I said, well, you don't have to worry about the quads because it just got over with and we won. He's like, we won. So, so that was just such a cool way to start the day for us. And then they had announced that you guys had won the event a few times over the PA. Tim Cotter did, and got a huge pop out of the crowd for the ATVs winning. I think that that's the coolest thing, to think that Team USA sweeps the motocross and quadcross of nations for the first time ever on the exact same day. And, you know, just to be able to celebrate the quad victory with the motocross of nations bike crowd at Redbud, standing room only crowd. It was just so cool to me. It made the hair on my arm stand up to think like this is where we're at now with the Team USA thing and the Quadcross of Nations. It's just it's so cool. Like it gains more momentum every single year.
Yeah, I mean, that's like chills type stuff there, man. It's really cool because you know, I was in a lot of contact with, like, you know, Bob and Jan and, you know, Tim Ritchie and everybody, like, going up to the race, and you know, it's cool to get that support, you know, from, I mean, all motocross community, and you know, like talking with Chase Sexton and stuff like that. Like he was in that event and a strong rider, and I was talking to him. I'm like, man, go get it for us, and we'll do our part here.
Mm-hmm.
So really awesome to be a part of you know, the Team USA and representing a great country here. And you know, along the other side of that, like talking about, like, I mean, even the riders over there, like they're racing against us, and they're like, you know, they're very welcoming to us. Like, yes, they want to try and beat us, but like they're very welcoming, especially like you know, before the gate, during the gate, like everybody's like very respectful, and then like afterwards, like we can like talk and have fun and bench race about like the weekend. So it's really cool to have that, and it's great to see them, you know, every year like that.
It's just such a cool dynamic. You know, I mean, I don't want to say they're fans of yours, but they really are. Like, they're fans of the American guys for sure. So yes, they want to beat you. At the same time, they look up to you. You know, it's just it's the coolest thing. We've talked about that so much. So it's so special. The connection and the trickle down effects that we've gotten from Quadcross of Nations is awesome. So Chad, parting question for you. So this is one I'm just going to throw out there, and I can't thank you enough for doing this, by the way. This is awesome. You're the best. So everybody seems to think that next year is going to be your swan song, that 2023 is going to be, you know, it for you as far as ATV motocross goes. So I guess in a broad sense, what is your response to people who think that? And if it is your last year, because we know that, you know, maybe that's when the Yamaha deal that you're currently signed to ends, how do you make sure that you get the very most out of yourself in 2023 to make, you know, that push for what would be record 9th motocross title?
First part of the question, it's a possibility. Like, I don't know, like, I don't want to say something that like it's not going to be, and then like, because every part of the year, like I might get towards the end of this year and I'm like, man, like I didn't get my goal, but it makes me hungry, you know, like, you know, stuff like that. So I'm not gonna like come out and say like it's gonna be my last year, or it's gonna tell me when it's time. Mm-hmm. But like for me, like I think just the workload that is on my shoulders and the stress that it puts on my family, I got to make sure that I keep that like at a manageable rate, because you know, I got to keep the homestead, you know, family and everybody happy, and family first, of course. And then you know, I've been doing this for so very long, and I've had a ton of success, more success than I've ever dreamed of. And it's one of those things that, you know, it'll tell me when it's time to go. But for, you know, like my Yamaha contract is up next year. Like I'm sure that if I did want to come back, we would renew because of just the relationship that we have together. But getting the most out of me next year is going to be like, you know, having complete focus and not to bury myself into a hole early like I did this year. But even then after that, like Joel and I have had like several battles that were just so intense, and it just made for a fun second half of the year for me. Not being that the first half wasn't fun, but things just weren't going my way, so it doesn't feel as fun that way. And you know, I'm gonna enjoy this off season a little bit and get our focus into 2023, which we've already started that a little bit, but it's just gonna be I just gotta put all my best game that I got, and use my veteran type wits to, you know, manage races and do all that and do everything correct.
Yeah, well, I think the reason why I wanted to ask is because you get better every year. You truly do. I think you just have this way about you. You find a way to get a little bit better every year. And it was hard for me to even ask the question, because I'm one of those guys that likes to live in the moment. Like, don't look too far down the line. And I think over the last handful of years, or at least the last couple, I found myself like on race days, just thinking to myself, trying to appreciate, you know, you being at the races and lined up in the pro class and all these things. And then your battles with Joel. We saw some great battles this year. just thinking to myself, man, I'm just trying to appreciate this while we got it, because it's one of those things that if you don't tell yourself to appreciate it and make sure you're appreciating it and cherishing it, that it'll pass us by. So just love to hear it. I know you're going to bring your best next season. I can't wait to see it. Like you said, this year would have been totally different if it wasn't for those first, round or two where you had some hiccups, but the rest of the way, I mean, you won a lot of races and just kept adding to the total, which is awesome. So Chad, you're a legend as always. Thanks so much for doing this. Thanks so much for your time and your willingness to spend some of it with my listeners and I appreciate it so much. Congrats on the win. Enjoy the off season and we'll see you soon, buddy.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Great to be on, and we'll be talking soon.
Take care, Chad. That's four-time Quadcross of Nations champ Chad Wienen right here on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, presented by DID Racing Chain and their 520 ATV2 X-Ring chain. Thanks so much, Chad.
Later.
As the #1 podcast in ATV racing, it's only right that we partner with the industry leaders in suspension tuning. Insert Impact Solutions. Impact Solutions is a full-service ATV and side-by-side suspension center specializing in the revalving and service of your motocross and off-road suspension. With over 25 years of elite-level knowledge, experience, and testing with riders of all ages and ability levels, Casey Greek, Jay Goebel, and the Impact crew strive to exceed clients' expectations for service and setup. Impact Solutions is the official Elka Suspension Service Center of the United States, offering unmatched product knowledge and experience. Whether you're in need of service, parts, warranty, sales, or technical support, Impact Solutions has you covered. Head over to impactsolutionsatv.com or give them a call today.
We interrupt this program for a special news bulletin.
The following message is brought to you by Manscaped.com. The Manscaped engineering team has outdone themselves this time, creating the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, now available for purchase in the US and Canada. Join over 2 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped, an official sponsor of the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast, with this exclusive offer of 20% off and free worldwide shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. I'm one of the first people to try the new 4.0 and I am blown away. This thing is next level. What sets this trimmer apart from all the rest? The Lawnmower 4.0 gives you the ability to turn the LED spotlight on and off when needed for a more precise shave. It features a new multi-functioning on-off switch with travel lock for those of us who like to travel. And my favorite, the new trimmer allows you to customize your trim with 4 different guard lengths, an upgrade from its predecessor that only featured 2. If you're listening, you know that good tools are a must, so wait no more to get the best tools for the job. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com by using code DIGGINGDEEP20.
Hey everyone, this is Larry Mills, president of DP Brakes North America and proud partner of the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. We at DP Brakes are a longtime supporter of ATV racing and the world leader in sintered brake technology, dominating the ATV world for decades by supporting the best four-wheeled racers on the planet. This year's lineup includes Jeff Rastrelli, Mark Baldwin and Baldwin Motorsports, Ford Brothers Racing, Nick Janusa, and many more, including Mr. Digging Deep himself, Cody Jansen. Plus all the top 17 GNCC pros such as 7-time champion Walker Fowler, Bryce O'Neill, Hunter Hart, Cole Richardson, Jared McClure, Adam McGill, and previous champion Chris Borich. These top riders continue to appreciate the high performance and impressive durability that their DP brakes have to offer, products that ultimately help place them on top of the podium week after week. DP brakes are available through www.dp-brakes.com, or you can purchase them through your local Parts Unlimited stocking dealer, or you can even message us, myself, Larry Mills, or DP Brakes on Instagram or Facebook. And if you have any questions about product or sponsorship support, please ask us. We are waiting for you. Join the best ATV riders in the world equipped with DP Brakes, and have a great year, everyone.
Nearing 2 decades into the brand's existence, Factory 43 is back and better than ever, continuing to make major waves in the ATV world. For the 3rd consecutive season, Factory 43 is the official aluminum parts choice of the Phoenix Racing ATV team, providing their state-of-the-art Evo Nerf bars, MX-style front bumpers, and grab bars for 2-time champ Joel Hetrick. If you're in the market to upgrade your Nerf bars, bumpers, or grab bars, head over to factory43atv.com to see their full line of industry-leading products available for all makes and models. Head over to factory43atv.com today.
Success in the ATV MX world is similar to what creates financial success as well. The right people, the right advice, and more importantly, hard work and the benefit of an ongoing relationship as situations change and adversity is experienced. Do you have the right financial advisor to help you reach your goals? Haymower Financial Group can create a personalized, goal-based plan to help your family prepare for whatever life brings. Call me, Scott Haymower, at Haymower Financial Group, a private wealth advisory practice of Ameriprise Financial Services, at 920-338-8150. That's 920-338-8150. Offices located in beautiful De Pere, Wisconsin, with registrations and clients nationwide.
But Casey, kind of jumping back into the races there, the second race would feature both of the two top Americans with Joel Hetrick and Chad Wienen. And it looked a lot like many of the races that we've seen here countless times in the States, with Joel getting out to the early lead, Chad quickly making his way up to second. And then the two basically ran essentially the same pace and maintained that gap between each other while checking out on the rest of the pack. However, the race had its own kind of atypical occurrence, I guess you could call it, as this race was red flagged and deemed final after about 60% of the race was over. I think that there was like 8 minutes or 9 minutes left in the race at that point, but it was called over when it was red flagged for a down rider. So kind of anticlimactic, Casey. But we did get that 1-2 result that we needed. And that was the most important thing for us Americans.
Yeah, it was exactly what we needed. And, you know, Chad needed it, you know, I think mentally just getting out there and getting himself in that situation and pushing through it. And, you know, it was huge for us to go out there and go 1-2. Yes, did the race got cut short. It was kind of like, you know, it's unfortunate. A rider went down that downhill, and it wasn't pretty. I was back under the tent, back at the container, prepping bike, getting ready for the last moto. But just kind of hearing over the radio, we always have someone in the tent in case, you know, something was to happen and we need to get ahead of the game and get things out or whatever it is, or if they need something up at the starting line. And then just kind of making sure, you know, people stay out of our pit area and things don't walk off or whatever it is. So we keep our radios on us the entire time when we're in the mechanic, you know, when we're out on the track, obviously, and then when we're back in our pit area.
Yep.
So just listening to what's going on, and then it's like red flags out. All right, riders all kind of rode up. There's a little state of unknown, like, are they going to call the race? Harv comes over the radio. The race is over. It's over 50%. Riders, mechanics go back to the truck. So, like, you almost get robbed of that like glory of winning the moto because
kind
it
of
just cut so sudden.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, that moto is so pivotal for everyone. And going into the third moto, like, we're like, okay, cool. Now we've done what we need to do. We just got to go do this one more time. We don't have to be perfect in this last moto.
Yep.
Because we were perfect in this moto, and with Bryce's 1 and their 1-2, like, we're doing good. We dropped Chad's DNF out, and we're really good in score as long as we don't have like a DNF and we just have, you know, 2 solid results in this third one. We're going to be able to lock this thing up and bring it back to the US.
Yeah. So it was such a weird deal because so the red flag comes out, and I know, you know, we're past halfway, but not like by a ton. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, like, how is this going to work for a restart? You know, are they going to single file it or whatever? And yeah, next thing we know, like, we're past 60%. We're going to call the race final. I'm like, oh, okay, well, like, it feels like the race wasn't even that far into it, but we get the 1-2 scores that we needed. And, you know, so after that first moto, we were 7th overall as a team. After that one, we were 2nd, and knowing or hoping we're going to drop that first moto from Chad, we'd be even better than 2nd. So yeah, we came out sitting pretty after that second moto. So Team USA rebounds in a major way in Moto 2 with Joel Hetrick taking the win, followed by Chad Wienen. And with one moto remaining, Team USA sat in the runner-up position, like I said, behind the defending champs, Ireland. And it would be up to Joel Hetrick and Bryce Ford, now your guy, to bring home bring home the title for us at the Quadcross of Nations. And let's do another vibe check. So how was everybody feeling heading into that final moto? I'm assuming at that point, from afar, to me, it was like, okay, like only one left, still have no room for error necessarily. You're always worried about a DNF or something, but I would assume that quiet confidence still was kind of a thing at that point, heading into that third and final moto.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, the jitters were gone. We got a couple motos under our belts. Bryce, obviously was on cloud 9.
Yeah.
But Joel was under the weather. And so that his first moto, Chad's second moto, but the second moto of the day, getting cut short, in reality, for how rough a shape Joel was in,
it helped.
Really was almost like a benefit,
Sure.
and we didn't look at it like that then, but I'm like sitting back and reflecting on the day and talking with you is really the most I've talked about, the day-to-day or the hourly events that we went through and everything that had kind of gone on, and told the story like this in depth.
Yeah.
But really, like, sitting back and thinking about that was almost the best case scenario for Joel, because he was in the same boat I was, and how he performed the way he did, feeling the way we felt.
Yeah.
That dude's tougher than nails. He's tougher than I could ever imagine being. So
sure.
I got to give it up to to him and everyone, the whole crew. I mean, we were all under the weather for sure. And some, it wasn't COVID or anything like that. It was like a stomach bug, which I've had COVID. I'd take that over the stomach bug any day of the week.
Right.
But yeah, no, I mean, the pressure's built. The pressure's on. We have to perform well in the last moto. But at the same time, you kind of know, you've done second row starts. Bryce is going to get to start first row this time. Joel's going to have to, start second row. Both of them are relatively great starters.
Yeah. So
you kind of know in the effect that, like, just go out there and do your job, boys. It's almost done. We got, 30 more minutes and we're done. All the pressure's off. We can pop the bottles of champagne and the boys can celebrate and we can have a great time.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of where we were at with it. And, Harv was keeping us updated the entire time. Bryce rips the whole shot. Joel comes out like mid-pack, makes quick moves. And then it's like the race is on. And, Bryce is out front, Joel's second. Joel ends up getting around Bryce, and relatively, like, no fireworks. Like, I mean, it was just like a clean, quick pass. Bryce locks in with Joel, and they just kind of go. And at one point, I don't know if, like, Bryce just started playing smart. I really didn't get to talk to him much. I still haven't talked to him much since the race, but it seemed like midway through that moto, one of the other riders, like, was pretty close at one point. And Bryce, like, oh, crap. And, like, had to drop the hammer and get away. And excuse me, because I cannot remember the guy's name.
Randy Naveau.
Awesome rider. Like, I'd like to see him come over to the States and race some too, because I mean his speed was really good.
Yeah.
And for a couple laps there, he gave Bryce all he could handle, and then Bryce kind of snapped out of whatever it was and dropped the hammer again and pulled back away from him, and we cruised on to an amazing victory. And I think, like, obviously Joel's been there and won before. Chad's been there and won before. But for Bryce, I think it was really cool that he rode the third moto, because you get to see that checkered flag. You get to feel the win and all that kind of stuff. So I think that was really cool experience for him. And I think the scenario, the way it all went down, worked out perfect for him, starting second row and working his tail off to win the moto, all that kind of stuff, And I think where Chad and Joel are so seasoned, and I feel like we're talking more about Bryce's experience over there, or more about Bryce over there. Obviously, you were renting with him.
Yeah, I mean, that
a whole lot more. So my story's gonna come from that perspective a little bit more, but still very close with Chad and Joel. But I think for those guys, like, they've won it, so many times now that it's still what you would always want it to be, and it's still a huge accomplishment to those guys, but it's just like another race win. And I've said it before, I think these guys need to start embracing wins, embracing moments more. And they did a great job. And they got up there and they got to celebrate and they did that stuff. But I think for like Bryce, like this is a lifetime achievement for him. And I think it was a life goal for him to be able to go over there, because you got to figure, since he's been pro, he got to see these guys go over and win as an amateur. And so he got to set those goals. When we started doing this race back, years ago here, Joel and Chad were already pros. They were already expected to go over there and do it. Now this is a goal for the young riders to get to do. And Bryce is the first one out of that group of young riders that were amateur when we started going over there to get to see what, he watched and seen these guys win. And I think I can relate. Like, I never got to go over there. I wasn't a mechanic anymore. I never got to go. I didn't think I was ever going to get to go as a mechanic. Yeah, could I have gone as a suspension guy, or would I go as a suspension guy? If Bryce didn't ask me to be his mechanic, I still would have went to be his suspension guy and be there for him and Joel and the team in every aspect I could. But to be able to do it as a mechanic, because that's my background, I got to watch these guys, and in all honesty, like, I was jealous of the other mechanics that got to go. I got to accomplish a lot of cool things. I've been to Europe and raced in Europe and won all over the world, but to go represent my country was a huge factor for me, and I didn't think it was ever reachable. And so to do it, and I think that's where, like, my perspective of how Bryce views it is probably similar, because we both got to watch these guys go over and win and be jealous that we weren't there doing it, and now we got to go do it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that, any nerves that were felt or pressure or whatever was calmed very quickly, in large part due to Bryce in that third moto, because he comes out of the gate, rips the whole shot, gets out to that early lead, sprints out to that early lead in the third and final moto. And then, Joel, kind of comes up on him, makes that quick pass, like you said, and the rest was history. So this just seems like the perfect time. Let's talk to the man of the hour. Without further ado, here's Bryce Ford joining us here on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. All right, guys, I could not be more excited to talk to this next guest following the most notable day of his racing career. Brought to you by DP Brakes, a longtime staple of the ATV industry and the world leader in sintered brake technology. And DP wanted me to remind you that they are currently accepting resumes for sponsorship support. You can email them directly to Larry at dpbrakestm@aol.com. So shout out to DP Brakes, your presenting sponsor tonight of reigning Quadcross of Nations winning team member, Team USA's Bryce Ford, joining us here on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. What's up, buddy? Welcome back to the show, and congrats on a weekend and an experience that you will never forget, pal.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me on. I'm super excited to just recap the whole MX of Nations, or Quadcross of Nations weekend. It was one that I'll never forget, and one that really is going to stay with me. And I'm really excited just to go over it.
Yeah, man. So when I say Bryce Ford, Quadcross of Nations winner with Team USA, what does that mean to you now? There was time spent there where, you're probably dreaming like, man, I hope this actually happens. I hope everything comes together, goes according to plan. Now we can sit back and say, Quadcross of Nations winner with Team USA. What does that mean to you?
It means everything. Honestly, just training for that and just focusing to be the best that I can be. And just when we qualified, I got second. And I knew that I just needed to focus on myself. And if I started up front, I needed to do what was expected of me and pull a good start. And Sunday, when I won, I unfortunately started second row, but it was still great. Just to pass through the field and just work my way up. and go across the checkered flag. I had no idea I won. I got to the podium. They told me to go down there because I thought Chad would be down there, so I was gonna congratulate him.
Oh, so you didn't know he broke?
No, so I was. That's honestly the most hyper focused I've ever been in a race. And
Okay.
I get to the podium, and Hart's like, "You won." Chad had a mechanical problem, and I was like, I honestly just sat there for a second and was like, "Wow." You know, it was an awesome feeling knowing that I won without even knowing that I was leading. So the whole time I was racing the underdog, and just I didn't stop. I didn't get tired at all, just because the atmosphere there is insane. But yeah, just winning there, it was insane. The fans were awesome. Everyone was stoked. I honestly cried after the podium, just because to get that win after all the hard work and all the years and everything I've been through, it really hit in and kicked in, and it was amazing for sure.
It's funny because, when you're on the podium and we're seeing your interview, it does seem like you're a little shell shocked, like, I'm like, man, like you could tell like you were happy, but I'm like, I expected more excitement. And it's probably because, you're just processing that you won at that point. Well, when you cross the finish line, you didn't know you won. That makes so much more sense now.
Yeah, I was for sure blown away. And just riding, it was like 28 minutes, 30 minutes, or something like that. I was prepared to do whatever it took. And just I felt amazing. I was obviously a little exhausted once I got off the track, but it was insane. And just the experience that it still gives me like excitement, like I could go run around right now just thinking about it. But yeah, it was super cool. I was blown away, honestly. I thought Chad got such a big lead from me being, behind, and he did have that lead from what I got told, but he had a carrier problem. And just to be able to, perform for the team and make it happen and really put us in a good position. That's something that, I would love to be a part of, and it came true. And I was just manifesting the days before to get a moto win, because the opportunity I was given with the two other riders starting behind me, or one other rider, but they're the two best to ever do it. So I knew I had a great opportunity, and I just did my best, and it ended up working out for me, which was amazing.
So now knowing that you didn't know you won that first moto changes, everything, at least in my mind, a little bit. But I said on race day that I thought you were the most pivotal team member, because in the first of the three motos, like you just said, so Chad goes out, he DNFs, and now you're forced to put the team on your back. You put the team on your back without even knowing it, right? So in my mind, like, you go out there, you charge to the front, you win this opening moto of the 2022 Quadcross of Nations, and I'm like, man, it's got to feel like you're dreaming. And I'm sure it was great after the fact, the more you processed it, but at the time you didn't even know. So I'm thinking like, he sees Chad break, he knows he's got to get max points, blah, blah, blah. And you just naturally went out there, win the moto, don't even know. And it's actually kind of adds to the story a little bit.
Yeah. And that's the crazy thing is Harv was like, did you see the pit board? And like, I was reading the pit board, but, it was insane. Like, I don't know if I blacked out or just was like, I don't know, but I lost like everything off the track that wasn't in front of me, like I was just focused. There was a clock by the finish line. I didn't read that thing once. I saw the two board come out, and I just kept charging. But yeah, I had no idea. So the feeling of just pushing the whole time and feeling really good. I don't know what the lap times showed, but I felt good the whole time. I might have slowed up a little bit at the end, but I felt amazing, and just to be there for our team and to be able to pull through it, that's something that, even meant a lot to me, not only just winning, just everything about it.
Yeah, for sure. And again, like this is a memory that you're never going to forget. And presumably you're going to get more opportunities to race, on behalf of Team USA at these events. At the same time, man, what an awesome memory to have in your memory bank. So that's incredible. So one aspect that I didn't even think of, this would have never crossed my mind. But you kind of filled me in before we hit record on our conversation here, was that so you were like the group one, like you were the first group of riders, right? And that was the most stacked group. So to be in the most stacked group, and then we know you win that opening moto and you finish second in the third moto. We'll get to that, but you win your group in that one. So to kind of come out at the top of that group, like that's another feather in your cap. The group that featured the most stacked riders. You can kind of give us kind of that list of the guys that were in there, but that was something I didn't even think of, but that's another feather in your cap there.
Yeah, so just going into this event, there were, and just throughout the years, I've heard big names like Kevin Sarr. I've heard of Harry Walker, Mark McClernand.
Yep.
Just a bunch of, good riders. And Saturday, I look at our race entries and I see a lot of those big names in mine. And there was one rider who I didn't really hear much about, but I have a lot of respect for and really caught me Saturday. Randy, I'm not sure how to say his last name, but he's from Belgium.
Yeah, Randy Naveau. Yeah.
Yeah, he rode amazing. And just a bunch of good guys. So to go out there Saturday and not get a good start because I started second row. And then I was in second. And Randy was in front of me, and I was pushing. I felt comfortable with the speed I was pushing, and I saw that I was catching him around a second a lap, and he was like 4 or 5 seconds ahead. So I was happy with what was going on. And one of the berms just grabbed my right tire, and I got stuck. And I don't mean like, where you're just like barely stuck. I was like really stuck.
Barely.
And I was rocking the bike side to side as hard as I could. And it took off, and I had to blow the berm completely. But if it would have been a couple more seconds, I was going to have to get off because it was buried. But yeah, I got back going, and I was in fourth in that situation. And I got up to second, and there was 3 or 4 laps left. I looked at the clock. It said 4 minutes, and Randy had a good gap on me then, about a 12-second lead. So I just really wanted to put it together and stay in second for my first race over there and starting back row. I was happy with that. And I just knew that, we have a good team behind us. It's not lay it all out there and mess up the opportunity or mess it up for the whole team, because we all have to pitch in and we all have to ride super smart for us to win.
Yeah. So Randy Naveau, pretty damn good rider. Seems like you guys found each other on the racetrack all weekend long. He won that moto where you got stuck in the berm, the qualifying race. Then he goes 2-3 in the motos. He was only beat by Americans. So he comes out of nowhere kind of and rides really well all weekend long. But you had mentioned to me just the talent over there in general, that those guys are fast, and I wanted you to be able to get a chance to touch on it here while kind of in this conversation, because those guys are no joke. And then if you think about, like, some of those guys are sand riders, so this isn't even like their most preferred soil type, especially guys like Randy Naveau from Belgium. I mean, those guys are no joke over there.
No, and yeah, that's one thing I'm glad you touched on. I respect all those guys that even show up to that race. I know in the US there's some people who think that some of those guys are not as good or not as capable, but it showed over there. And when we just raced that, all those guys are super good. In the top 10, those guys are fast. Like, I was catching some of them, but I wasn't even blowing by them because they had the good line and they were pushing a good speed to where it wasn't super easy to just cut out of the race line and just blow by them. So it was honestly insane for me, because going over there, I didn't know anything, but I knew the big names that we hear about in the US. just from the big name riders in Europe. But there were a lot of guys I was really impressed with. I can't remember all their names, but just and I've heard that they're getting better in the years, but it was just super cool to see the competition over there. It wasn't weak by any means. And those guys are definitely, if they weren't that good before, I can tell you they're getting really good, and some of them are there. So I definitely was on my toes and had to really focus.
Well, in another hurdle, and again, I told you this earlier, but another hurdle I think about at this event is you don't know these other riders necessarily, or not many of them. You've seen Patrick Turini and some of these guys, but for the most part, you don't know like their intricacies as a rider. So, when you're battling with Brandon Hogue or Nick Janusa or Jeffrey Rastrelli, Max Lindquist, how those riders are going to race you, and what makes those riders different than each other. Some of their strengths and stuff like that. And over there, man, like you don't have rider profiles for each one of these guys. You're not watching tape on them. Like each one's a little bit of a question mark. And that's got to be a little bit in the back of your mind too, So that's like a whole nother hurdle.
Yeah, it was for sure. And I've watched years past, and there's been some, a little bit dirty of a rider with the US, but I knew that going into that. And when I was passing lappers or when I was passing through the pack, I made that, I kept that in the back of my head. If you're going to pass someone, you better pass them, don't play with them or sit next to them. So I just, with any of those guys, all 40 of them or 35 of them, whatever we raced, I took all of them the same. I respected all of them. Like they were, like the names you mentioned, a Brandon Hogue, a Max Lindquist, even Joel and Chad. When I passed those guys over there, I didn't play with them. And I knew that they were out there in a race too, no matter if they were, getting lapped or whatever. So I just took it super serious. And when I passed them, I passed them. I didn't, mess with them or anything like that. So yeah. It was honestly really nice going in there like that because you don't know what to expect. But after Saturday, I promise you, I knew what to expect Sunday. And I didn't sleep super well because I knew that like I had to be on my A game and do everything that I could to be able to, hold down the fort for the US and be able to, do what we need to do.
Yeah, well, you sure did that. How weird was it to start on the second row behind another rider?
It was pretty crazy. Me and Joel did some like practice starts and we simulated that same thing.
Okay.
And when we did the practice starts, all I can tell you is that start was pretty rocky. And I was like, oh my gosh, this really is gonna suck because my arms were, hurting. I got hit in the face with a rock. But it was something that was so different because the way they go to the gate, it's like the first front row goes up. And then like 2 minutes, 3 minutes before they drop the gate, the second row goes up. So I went right behind Chad. Okay. And he already had my gate prep. So I just pull in and it's sort of something that I didn't even get nervous about. It was like, all right, you're here. And then next thing I know, the 15-second card goes up. And then they have a 5-second card that goes up and you rev it. The gate's about to drop. So I really didn't have a lot of time to think about it, but looking back on it, it honestly wasn't bad. Chad pulled a really good start, so I knew that, and I knew that, from this year's nationals that he's very good at starts. So I believed in him and trusted him. So I just, as soon as I saw the gate move, I dumped the clutch and went with it. But there was a little bobble in the first turn, so it pushed me back a little bit. But all in all, it was not as bad as what people think. But it's definitely crazy when you look over and there's like 40 of you on the gate, or once again, how many ever, 32, whatever it was. It's crazy seeing that many people on the gate.
Well, and on Saturday, you were on the second row behind not an American. So
yeah,
so that's not like, it's not you're trusting obviously of Chad or Joel or whatever, Chad in your case, but when you're starting behind somebody you know nothing about, I mean, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, so that's something that was talked about as well. Like we need to go behind a country that we think takes it very serious, and
sure.
Ireland ended up getting the first pick. So we went behind Mark McLernan, and I personally felt that he was there to win. And Team Ireland is, they're a professional team, so I don't think they would do anything out of the ordinary to try to affect us. So I felt comfortable starting behind him. So it was actually really nice for me though Saturday to start second, because I got, the worst of the worst right off the bat. And I passed all the way to second, and then I made that little mistake, but then got back to second. So it was super nice starting second, but it was definitely like, a little nerve wracking at the time, but at once I got to Sunday and then I started second first moto, it was really nice.
Got it. Well, that wasn't a concern for Moto 3 because you had first pick in that one, right? You were on the front row for that one. But knowing that this was the clinching moto, was there nerves heading into that final moto there? Because now, now it was for all the marbles, and there's no room for error without the throw out that was used on Chad's moto. So what were your thoughts or nerves going into that third and final moto on Sunday?
After the first moto, I felt pretty confident, and if I just put my head down and really focus on myself, it would all go good. The only thing that affected me off the track was there were a couple riders getting sick, and it was happening to a lot of people. And I'm sitting in that container, and I'm the only one not sick. And I didn't need anything all day. So riding the first 30-minute moto, that probably wasn't smart. So going to the gate on the third one, I really didn't have a ton of energy, but I knew what we had to do. So just sitting on the gate, I knew if I got a really good start or pulled the start, I would put myself in a very good position. So that's what I focused on, and I honestly banked on that, just to believe in myself and pull starts like I have before. So I just pulled a really good start, and just got first off the start. And I knew Joel, if I got a good start, he would be, top 5. And Joel is very good at passing and can make it happen fast. And I think, 3 or 4 laps in, or 2 laps in, he was in second. And then by the 4th or 5th lap, he was on me. And I just, in that time, he's obviously, his speed is insane, and he's a great racer. But I wanted to be super smart. I was stoked to be leading for a while and have him behind me. That's what I could dream of, helping the team this way. He put, he went to the inside, and I gave him the line, and he took off. And I just tried to drop in behind him, but I was struggling on the uphill a little bit with suspension. The rear shock was a little bit stiff when the track got rougher, and that's an adjustment. That's my fault, because I felt when the track was smooth, the stiff suspension was really helping me. So I didn't want to change anything, but it didn't work out in my favor in the third moto. And then at the bottom of that big hill, there was a big hole, and Joel ended up popping his right tire. And I popped mine as well. And it definitely made it a little bit tougher for Joel. I heard him say after the moto, it was, I don't think he would have lost because of it, but I definitely think he thought about it, and it might have slowed him down a little bit. But I didn't even realize I had the flat tire, because I started slacking a little bit, and Randy passed me right by the mechanics area. He went outside and passed me. And I knew I had to, put a wheel in, and I, sort of showed that wheel, and he backed off. And once I got back in front of him, I just, really laid the hammer down, because I wanted to have that perfect score for the U.S. So I just focused from there, and just, it was awesome. But just to ride with all those guys, and even Joel and Chad, it was insane for me. And it's a experience that, like you say, I'll never forget. And those moments, the whole weekend, the fans there were insane. I was signing, kids' foreheads. They wanted, after the third moto, they wanted my, every part off my bike I gave away. a lot of stuff, and you could see Mark was like, but I was like, this could be a once in a lifetime thing for me. Next year's never, guaranteed, not with Nations, just with anything in life.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
I just was living in the moment, and it was crazy. Just super grateful I got the opportunity to go, and I pulled through. I felt good all weekend, so it was amazing.
Yeah, dude. I mean, you managed it so beautifully. After you rip the whole shot, obviously any nerves go away. You get out to this quick lead. And then when Joel gets up to second, I'm kind of wondering how it's all going to play out. You managed that beautifully. You didn't race them too hard. You didn't get anything sketchy. You settled into your pace. And then, Randy Naveau comes up, and you end up, getting him back, which is, all racers know that's not the easiest thing to do. Right. So then you throw the hammer back down, kind of achieve the perfect score for the team. And it's funny because in your soliloquy there, you use the word dream, and that's literally what I had written down on my sheet here, that it was essentially a dream ride for you, a dream day for you. So, in that final moto, you and Joel are out there for the clinching. It was the clinching moto 1-2. You clinched the 4th Quadcross of Nations title for the American squad. So take me through the emotions as you cross the finish line, Bryce, because this time, the first one, you might have not known you won the moto. The second time, you knew that this was, you guys had just clinched the thing, and it's pretty special to be on the track for that. So tell me what those emotions were like when you knew, hey, we just did it, and you did your part in a major way. You slayed it for your team. Tell me what that felt like when you crossed the finish line.
Oh, it was awesome. Once I had Randy, push me and pass me, and then pass him back and finish the weekend off strong, the emotions were actually crazy. Once I passed the finish line, I just held the clutch in and held it wide open. I felt like I just, won a AMA title. Just something that it was, I led laps there. I, won the moto. Just, it was crazy. But once I took my gear off and everything, it really started to set in, and just to be a part of this great team, and to be a part of, a winning team. It was amazing to me. And there's just, it meant the world to me. It really did, just to make it happen. Cause I know there's been a lot of, stuff going on throughout the year with me. Like, I had struggles, I had lows, but that whole weekend was all highs, and it really opened my eyes to, what I need to do. And, I'm going to try to, make that happen. But just, there's so many people, like, I don't want to forget, like Casey Greek. He was the mechanic for me that at the Quadcross of Nations, and he did an amazing job. The bike was always ready. I had, foam under the frame where I wanted it. Just everything was ready. He was so excited, holding the pit board out. I've never, had someone hold the pit board that close to me, but going by the mechanics area, I thought I was going to get hit a couple times. Just the whole experience, just everyone, David Eller for getting the helmets painted, Mark for, everything he does, Harv for, making it all stay together and being the glue to the whole thing, Sherry and Cindy. Just my girlfriend is just like Ian for everything he does. If you go there, it looks like, like a legit setup. Like, we do this every weekend, and it's like Ian, gives the canopies and the graphics and the t-shirts and the hats, and just, just everyone, all, Michael, Chad's mechanic, Jim, Joel and Chad, just it, like, and I know I'm saying a lot of people, and it's not like I'm on a podium or anything, but it was a memory and a moment of a weekend, like a whole weekend that I'll never forget. And just all the amazing fans, like people coming up to me, they were all positive. They were super excited to see me there. So it was something that like I've said a million times, I'll never forget. And I'm so grateful for all those people to be there and to support it. It really, really, made that, why I want to race, and this is why you race. So it was super special, and just I'm grateful for everyone involved and everyone.
Well, the thing is like, there is no better feeling than setting a goal and achieving that goal. So you set out for something with, your teammates at Team USA, but you guys set out for something, achieved it. And then you didn't just like do your part for the team. Like overperformed basically your part for the team to win a moto, to lead laps, to just be so in control of your destiny on that weekend was so special to me. It stood out to me. And then the other thing, so you compare it to an AMA title, and that's something that I'm sure that you're going to experience someday, one of these years, but I still don't know if you're going to get like you're going to be that hyped with your family or with your crew. But at a team event like this, when it's for your country, like it's such a group, right? Like you're all on that high, like you're all on that natural high.
That's what's, awesome about it is it's like our country. And it just brings me back to like the Olympics and just the history of our country that, I've always been taught in school and like just everything about it. Like you're representing the US, it's not just yourself and Baldwin and these other companies. It's 1,000 racers, 10,000 quad racers, whatever's in the US, you're representing. And I understood that. And I was, like I said, when I was there, I was focused. I was ready to honestly do whatever it took. If my, helmet would have flew off or, my handlebars would have came off, I was figuring out a way to, make it happen. Like I understood, what was going on there and why I was there. So I took it, serious and that's what happens. I need to be more focused in other racing scenarios. I performed on the biggest stage of my life and I performed how I should. And it was just super cool to feel that and be able to do that because I didn't stop training after Loretta's. I slowed down a little bit, but I didn't stop riding. I didn't stop working out. And I've had motivation problems before in my career, but I understood why I got selected and what I needed to do. And it all worked out. But I feel like, good things come to those, who put in the effort, put in the work, and always do the right thing. And that's what I've really always tried to do. And just to see it happen, like, that's why I cried after the podium, because it's not about proving those people wrong or what those people say about me. It's for myself, just seeing that, maybe this person doesn't believe in you, but it's the people who have helped me, everyone I'm representing, and I made it happen on one of the biggest stages. It's not just, a national stage, it's a worldwide stage. So there's so much to it. And it really means everything for me to go there. And like I've said, this isn't this could be a once in a lifetime thing for me. I'm very fortunate to be chosen. And it's just, it was, surreal and insane. And
well, buddy, I think that's why, you and everybody representing Team USA makes us so proud. Like, you showed, and it was very apparent throughout the whole thing, how much it meant to you. And to go out there and know, like, I'm willing to do whatever to make it happen for my squad. Like, obviously, as fans and as supporters, or whatever you want to call all the people that, supported Team USA, maybe, bought clothing or donated or whatever, been a part of the riding schools, all the people that supported and believed in Team USA. Like, that's like, you wearing your heart on your sleeve that way makes everybody so darn proud. Like, I was so amped after you won that first moto that I felt like I was emotional. Like, I felt like I had done it, it was amazing.
That's something that's really cool to me. And I feel like you understand this, what I went through and what it felt like, because, you've raced for such a long time and you've been a pro. You've been in a lot of situations, but I feel like for other people, people were a little bit worried, but at no time during that event, I doubted myself. Like, when I blew a berm, I was definitely saying to myself, like, Bryce, like, come on, you can't do that again, because, that's happened before this year. But, it just, some of the stuff didn't even cross my mind that's crossed my mind before. Just because like I was out there, to represent a whole country, and I understood that, and just like it was honestly, it was crazy because in the 30 minutes I didn't feel tired once, and just, yeah, I understood what I was there to do, and it all worked out.
Yeah, for sure. And so I am going to ask this question though, like this is all positive, but I have to ask, cause I know you're not dwelling on all the stuff leading up to it, but after all the talk and after all the debate of, over the course of the last few months about this whole thing, and if the right selection was made and all that stuff, for you to go out there, absolutely slay it for Team USA and deliver it in the biggest way possible, has to literally be the best feeling. It has to be the best feeling imaginable. Not even in a way to, shut them up, like, look, I did it kind of thing. Not even that, just to do it when it was being called into question. I can't imagine a better feeling.
No, yeah, and that's the thing that I don't want it to, seem like, and that's not why I did it at all.
I know.
And no, I know you're just, but like I'm just so grateful that I made it happen for, our whole, sport and everything. I don't, the people can say what they want and think what they want, but I truly, put my heart out there and everything, and just to make it happen, it was like an amazing feeling.
Mm-hmm.
So just, and yeah, it's insane still to think about, and like, I've been enjoying life. I got on a scale 2 or 3 days after, and I was like 8 to 10 pounds over what I usually am. So
Hey,
I
rightfully
was
so.
definitely,
Rightfully
yeah,
so.
Like the food was tough over there, but I found some good food over there, but in Austria, but it was, and it still is. It's an amazing thing for me, and super positive. So I don't, I know there are people out there, but I didn't even really think about the negative stuff. It was
I'm
just
glad.
like, and I went back and looked, and you made a post about, the day I had, and it was all positive stuff.
Oh,
And
heck
that
yeah,
stuff
dude.
that was,
Hey, I said to Brooke, not to interrupt you, but I said to Brooke, we're sitting in the car, and I say, man, look at how cool this is. Look at how much things have changed. Not a single negative comment, just everybody hyping you up about how great you did and how good you did for Team USA and all those things. Like the brand of Bryce Ford and all the people that, are fans of you. And like, I truly think that whether it's these conversations and how well you did over there, wearing your heart on your sleeve, telling people exactly how you feel, and that, it hurts when people say certain things about you and whatever, just being so real. I think that one means a ton to people, and two, like, people are starting to learn who you are. I truly believe that. And so I'm like, man, how cool is this, that everything's flipped totally 180, and not a single person could say a bad thing about how that weekend went for you, because you slayed it. And I told you last time we talked, I'm like, every single one of these people posting all this BS, they're going to be cheering for you that weekend, and you gave them so much to cheer about. Like I said, just what a dream scenario.
Yeah, and I really appreciate you keeping it positive, and really, always, wanting me on the shows and believing in me. And, it really means a lot to me. And just going and looking at like your post, it's like, someone really does see what what goes on. And
Dude,
it's, yeah, it's
deserve
just,
it.
it's super, badass for me. Just looking at some of those comments on there, I know the people because they came up to me, and I remember their face, just because I try to be super, personable with everyone that I talk to.
Mm-hmm.
And just to see like names that I can't even pronounce or say, they, they met me over there, and they see, what it's all about. And I'm sure they've been following, you and the sport for a while, and just to see them stick up for me and comment. And it's super badass for me, and that's what makes me want to do this again. And just, yeah.
So
not eat
after,
the bad food I've been eating.
like I said, they're like I said, you have every right to do that right now. You got to live it up a little bit. So so you kind of touched on it before, but don't you think, having gone through this, having experienced this, having banded yourself together with Joel Hetrick and Chad Wienen for this event, having like all the growth I'm sure that's promoted, from an event like this, high pressure situation, all, basically like our country, you're representing our country, all the stuff that comes along with that. Don't you believe like this is going to pay dividends for your racing career going, 2023 and beyond? Like I would think that this has the opportunity to take you to a whole nother level. Like you just experienced totally different kind of pressure, totally different kind of like race scenarios and all these things. Like I just got to believe that creates a lot of growth for you. And like I think like this might promote you grabbing another gear, right? Like that's at least how I see it from my perspective.
For sure. It'll really help with me with just like, everything, just like going into a race day, just not stressing as much, knowing that I'm capable, and just like seeing the way those guys work on a race day. I know I'm sure they didn't, go as hard as they do at a national or train as hard, but just getting to, sit in the same area as them and just see the way that they handle this, because they've been doing it for so long. And I'm over here, shaking because I'm so nervous. I didn't really feel that, but I was definitely a little nervous. But just seeing them and like they understand that, I feel like if they're on their A game, they feel like they have a very good opportunity at winning the moto or, making it happen. So just there's a bunch of things that I learned that, I don't, want to say, because I don't know if it's, 100% true or, if it's like for people to hear, but it was super good for me to like, be beside them and learn, because that's what I felt like when I was working with Thomas. I got to see another pro and he sort of like showed me the way. And then I, haven't had that for a while. So just to see, the two top guys, the way that they do it, it really helped me. And just to see that I can perform, no matter where my fitness is at, if I focus and really try, it's doable. So it opened my eyes and made me realize a lot of things. So I just need to focus next time this opportunity comes around, which is going to come quick it next year at Daytona. So
Well, that was kind of my thought, pal, was just the fact that knowing that you've done it now, like on the biggest stage, just to know it's inside of you, I think is a big thing. So like I said, I'll echo it again. I'm so proud of you, buddy. I know so many of us are. So kind of ending on this. So tell me about Europe a little bit. I know you spent a little time there kind of previous to the event. You spent some time there after the event. You got to live it up and celebrate a little bit and cherish it, kind of, all those things. So tell me about Europe a little bit. We know the fans love to see you. You talked about that already. You said the crowd was amazing. It was insane. But tell me about the European experience before we get out of here.
It's definitely a little bit different. Their breakfast, it's not super strong. But it's decent food. The house, we stayed at the house, all stayed at a house. So that was really cool. But I went to Como in Italy, and that was an awesome experience just to see, a beautiful lake and get to celebrate my cousin getting married.
Okay.
And then we went to Austria. We went to the Red Bull Museum. That's definitely something that's really cool to see. They have a lot of, not Formula One cars, but the cars to get up to that series. So that's really awesome. And just to see the way that those cars are built, just things like that. But it's a beautiful place. It's definitely a little bit different living than the U.S. I feel like they might be behind in time, just on some of the things, but it was very nice to, step back out of the chaotic, ways of the U.S. and just very fast paced. Dinner or lunch takes about 3 hours anywhere you go. So it was, a lot different, but it was very nice. And the racing made it all worth it. And just getting to spend time with one of the best families at the racetrack is always special to me. Just everything Ian does, letting me go to Austria with him and see that part of Europe. It's super cool.
Well, yeah. And again, the fact that, you extend your season by, 6 weeks or whatever it is, training for this event after the American Series ends, all, the sacrifice and the pressure and all these things, after all that, for me to see some of the beautiful photos of you and Izza, all the cool places that you were. And then I had said to you before we hit record on this thing that I was talking to Ian last week a little bit, and he told me that you guys were still over there and that you were still vibing, still riding that natural high from winning the event. It made me feel good. It made me like after everything that happened, and then for you to do so well, and then to get an opportunity to, vacation over there a little bit and still ride that high and cherish it for a little bit longer. Man, it made me feel good, because after everything and the way that everything went down, I don't think that there's anybody that deserved it more than you did. So if obviously I know the answer to this question, I'm going to ask it anyway though. So if and when given the opportunity, you're right back. You're team member for Team USA every time you're asked, I'm sure.
Yeah, I would love to go back. I know there's, I don't I don't talk about that because Harv's obviously, our referee and just, the manager. But I would love to go back for the US. I would represent them, or if they needed help with anything, I would love to be a part of the team and just to be able to go once. It was awesome. Everything about it was, something I'll remember. So if they ever need help, or if I get the opportunity to go back in years to come or whenever, I would love to go and represent us again. And I'll try to do the same thing again and have a solid weekend.
Oh, dude. And I think that you truly helped your cause, obviously, with doing as well as you did. I think that, like I said, I think that helps your cause for going back for sure. But again, buddy, we're so proud of you, proud of the way that you represented our country in the sport of ATV motocross racing here in the States. Thankful for the way that you performed for our squad. So yeah, man, you're the man. I'm so grateful that you're willing to come and spend a little time with us chatting about it. And man, what a victory. So just can't thank you enough for sharing this time with us and telling us all about it. We're so freaking proud of you, pal.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me on, and thank you to everyone who supported Team USA. Like you said, bought merch, bought the live stream, just everyone who was a part of, supporting it and congratulating me or anyone. I really appreciate it. And it was really something that I'll never forget and I cherish for the rest of my life. So yeah, it was something I'll never forget. That weekend was amazing. But thank you for having me on, and thank you for always being a positive and fair person in racing and give me some, of that, just show what's really going on at the track and my hard work.
I just try to give you and everybody else exactly what they deserve. Right. So I try to treat you exactly how you deserve. And pal, again, thanks so much for your time. And hey, you keep living it up. You keep kicking back a little bit. You keep riding that natural high. Have a safe off season, and we'll see you soon. All right, buddy.
All right. Thank you, Cody.
Awesome, man. That's Bryce Ford, winner of the Quadcross of Nations with Team USA, presented by DP Brakes, right here on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. See you, pal. Thanks so much.
See you. Thank you.
Insurance. It's not something everyone likes to talk about, but let's face it, if you race motocross, it's something you should have. Integrated Financial Concepts is an independent financial service and insurance firm who offers moto-friendly insurance and helps out riders like Nick Janusa, Jeffrey Rastrelli, and Joel Hetrick gain confidence on the track. With their unique Safe to Race and Safe to Ride programs, if you qualify, they have the ability to offer life insurance with living benefits to those who ride. With these living benefits, you may have the ability to access a portion of your life insurance policy while you're still living, for things like cancer, heart attack, stroke, or chronic illness. They can also help with many other things, such as home, auto, motorhome, and trailer insurance, as well as college planning, special needs planning, payroll processing, as well as group health benefits for your business. So whether something happens on or off the track, Integrated Financial Concepts has you covered. With their complimentary one-on-one appointments, what are you waiting for? Reach out to Mike Daniele at DANIELE_Michael at nlgroupmail.com today and see how Integrated Financial Concepts can help you. Living benefit riders are supplemental benefits that can be added to a life insurance policy and are not suitable unless you have the need for life insurance. Riders are optional and may require additional premium and may not be available in all states or on all products. This is not a solicitation for any specific insurance policy.
Just like the sport of ATV motocross as a whole, our Digging Deep community is brought together by the love for racing that we all share. Our sport is compiled of many great people, and leading that charge is the Launderville family at Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply. This racing-owned family business is a steel and concrete supplier serving the entire United States. Launderville Steel is a full-service steel supplier of new and surplus steel, aluminum, and stainless steel products, headlined by their 4130 chromoly tubing and plate used in the building of chassis for ATVs and UTVs, off-road truck racing, late model dirt and pro tractor pulling series, drag racing, and more. Launderville Steel loves their racing just as much as we do, but don't forget about their concrete division as well. With over 25 years of experience, the concrete division can supply everything you need to complete your next business or personal project. Their central Midwest location enables LSE to easily serve customers across the United States. For a quote, additional info, answers to more of your questions, or to talk a little racing, head over to laundervillesteel.com or give them a call today. We are proud to be partnered with yet another racer-owned company. Thank you, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply. Here at Digging Deep, we have an obvious passion for ATVs and pridefully enjoy sharing the sport's history. Since 2019, when the podcast was born, we've been working to partner with individuals who share our passion, but one man and his vision had been missing from our partnership group. Until now. When it comes to the sport's history, the hallowed grounds of Binky's Forever ATC Museum has it all. Binky Tapscott's mind-blowing collection of 3- and 4-wheelers has preserved history by spanning all makes and models, from Honda 3-wheelers in chronological order to unique builds that shaped ATV racing as we know it, like Doug Gust's iconic DRZ-powered hybrid thumper and everything in between. There's no denying Binky's passion, a passion that we certainly relate to here at Digging Deep. Binky's goal is to share his amazing collection with fellow enthusiasts by making his prized possessions accessible to the public via scheduled visits. Follow Forever ATC Museum on Facebook and watch foreveratc.com for further updates on possibly getting a chance to see Binky's Forever ATC Museum for yourself. We are proud to welcome Binky's Forever ATC Museum to the Digging Deep family. Evans Waterless Power Sports Coolant. The best power sports coolant on the market, Evans prevents overheating and boilover, so you need not worry about harming your engine or suffering a premature end to your ride no matter what the conditions. Designed for use in ATVs, UTVs, motorcycles, and other power sports equipment, when conditions are at their worst, Evans is at its best. Upgrade to Evans now to avoid overheating and boilover next time you hit the track or trail. Use discount code DIGGINGDEEP20 at checkout to save at evanscoolant.com. Thanks for listening, and remember to support our partners. Now back to the show. In the end, just as we posted on Sunday morning, Team USA wins the 2022 Quadcross of Nations as Joel Hetrick and Bryce Ford go 1-2 in that third and final moto in the Czech Republic. And I'll echo what we posted then. I mean, I'm so proud of our guys. I'm thankful for the way that they represented us in the best way that they know how, victorious and triumphant. Hell of a job by everybody involved. Joel Hetrick, Bryce Ford, Chad Wienen, the entire Team USA crew, including you, Casey. So tell me about the emotions then when this is achieved. The guys cross the finish line. They win the 4th Quadcross of Nations title. You're a part of that. It is a major part of that as a team mechanic for this one. So tell me about the emotions following that final checkered flag.
Really, it's just like lots of high fives, hugs, congratulations over the radio, everything that you would really typically expect. And I feel that's probably my only regret of the entire trip. And I couldn't handle it, or I couldn't change it, was because I felt like such crap that I never even got to celebrate it.
Sure.
Getting to the podium was a feat at that point. But the adrenaline had wore off, everything, at that point's done, and you're on a high, you're just we just won, this is the greatest feeling ever. But you feel so bad. I felt so bad. So it really took away from that ending experience. We still got to do, the podium and got to see all that kind of stuff. And that was amazing to stand there and see our guys stand on top of the podium. The joy that it brings me now, I feel, is better than what it was right there in the moment.
Sure.
Right there in the moment for me, in all honesty, it was like, where's the closest bathroom and where can I sit down and get, like, I had some back issues going on too.
Okay.
So like I had like it's just stupid. Like it really sucks. It took a lot away from the ending of my trip.
Sure.
And what should have been like just pure excitement. But like it was like, where's the closest bathroom, and then how fast can I get to the podium? And I need to sit down and relax for a second because I can barely move at this point. So you muscle through it, you fight through that, and you get up there and you put a smile on your face and you high five everyone, give everyone hugs and congratulations, and tell everyone good job. And then it's pretty much, you get off the podium, all the celebrations are done, and that was cool. Like the guys really embraced that side of it. And I mean, I think Bryce was soaked head to toe. All 9 champagne bottles ended up on Bryce's head up there, I think, at one point in time, which was really cool. And he embraced it and like lived that moment. And that right there, like standing back and watching, like, I'm not going to lie, like I got glassy eyed. Like I like sitting watching those guys celebrate, and I'm like, we freaking did this cool. And the experience that I got to have, and for Bryce to get to experience that for the first time and be there for that. And Joel, he missed his daughter's birthday, like there's just so much sacrifice that goes into us going over there and doing this. It's not just all fun and games. Let's go over there and have a great time. And we'll race on the weekend. Like there's a lot of work and sacrifice. So it's just like a release almost of just like all of it decompresses. And then honestly, like I have such a small part in everything that went on, where like the hard work really comes from the inner circle there of, really Harv and Mark Baldwin, like they got to pack the container. They got to do, there's so much behind, and Sherry and Cindy coordinating the hotel and cars and how everyone's getting there and when everyone's leaving and trying to orchestrate all that stuff. That's really the hardest work of it. The race gets all the glory, but the guys that are really pushing behind the scenes to make this thing happen is really where the hard work and why we're so successful over there.
Yeah, for sure. So there's a few things to touch on there. Obviously, so much work by everybody involved. And this is one of those things that we touch on in sports. I know we've touched on it in this show. We've touched on it on a lot of shows. The winning of the event, especially an event like this, where the Americans come in as the favorite. We addressed that on the previous episode on a preview show. It's one of those things where in sports where, if you were to fail, and the Americans have never failed at this event, but if they were to fail, that devastation would hit a lot harder than the high of winning it hits, because we're expected, there's that standard. Like it's like a relief almost, like, okay, we did our job. We won. So for one, like, it's awesome to see the guys embrace that, and Bryce included. I was chatting with Ian Harris from SSI the other day, and he said, because he was still over there, or maybe still is now, with Bryce and Izza and the rest of the family, the Harris family. And he said that he had just heard Bryce, playing the Queen song, "We Are the Champions," still days after the event. Right. And I think that that's the coolest thing, that he was still riding that high. It's amazing. It's a shame for you, Casey, that you weren't able to kind of appreciate it the way that we know you would have. And that's not even the right way to say it, because I know how much you appreciate it, but not to live in the moment or enjoy it the way you would have. And then the other thing, to piggyback off of that, because we know how it affected you now after hearing that. But the one thing that I kept hearing was, man, I can't believe Joel rode as well as he did, being as sick as he was. Or the couple people that told me that they got sick then, like you did, saying, man, I don't know how Joel did it. And you basically echoed that same thing to me earlier. So that is a credit to Joel too. Like, we know he's cut from a different cloth. We know he's an alien. We know he's unlike basically anybody we've ever seen before. But the fact that he went out and did that and looked like his normal self, even though he was sick as a dog, like, man, that's just a whole nother added layer to the story and the lore that will come with, this story, this fourth championship as time goes by. It's like the Jordan flu game or whatever. Like, Joel went out there and didn't miss a beat. Perfect 1-1 day for him and helped Team USA secure this win. But man, this is going to be another one of those races for Team USA at the Quadcross of Nations that goes down in history, and it's not going to be one that anybody forgets. So Casey, this was your first time as a mechanic, but you've been a part of these Quadcross of Nations teams and stuff in the past as a suspension guy and whatnot. But the one question I wanted to ask you, now maybe living it even a little bit differently as a mechanic, and this is something that we did touch on the preview show, but it sure seems like those Euros over there just love seeing our American riders come over there. And I wanted to ask you on how that was from your perspective. You kind of touched on that everybody just wants to see the team be a part of it, even talk to you guys, but still feel like that's what hits me from these images and videos of them, walking around, you guys, in all your Team USA stuff, Team USA branded clothing. It's like, man, everybody just wants a little piece of you guys when you're over there. And that is something that I think we shouldn't probably take lightly, because, we're so proud of Team USA and proud as Americans, but that's something that like is so normal for us. Yet, when you go over there and experience it, and for you, probably seeing the way that these European people, riders and fans and teams alike, kind of look at, view, and respond to you guys, like kind of puts back in perspective just how lucky we are to maybe be Americans. And then obviously for you to be a part of a team like that, it's got to be a pretty special thing.
We are very lucky, and we're very spoiled with being Americans, and our ATV motocross family, like we're all a big family. And I think some of the fans are almost numb. The easiest way, as you were going through that all, and I was thinking about what I wanted to say on how I could pay enough respect to the fans over there. It's like having 3,000 super fans there. It was what is the first thing and the thing that kept coming to my mind. Like,
sure, the
fans are incredible. The kids, I mean, the autographs, they just idolize those guys. And I think a lot of them, because Bryce is young, like a lot of the younger kids really took to Bryce heavily because they're on the same demographic. They're both younger.
Looks like one of them. Like, yeah.
Yep. And so one thing that he said to me, he's like, the fans are just amazing.
Yeah.
He's like, we don't get this at home. Like,
but Casey, so we touched on this. We touched on this a little bit, but right, like these guys are so accessible here, so you don't get that big pump. So I think that's got to play a role.
Like, our fans and our people that are at the races are almost numb to our top professionals because it's just Chad, it's just Joel, it's they're just normal guys.
Yeah,
they're not these iconic superstars that they are over there. And the other riders, I mean, we're swapping hoodies with other teams and team shirts with other teams, like with other mechanics and riders, and the riders are swapping jerseys with each other, like, because we're just as big of fans of them as they are of ours.
Yeah.
And so to get to meet Mark McLaren, like obviously we got to meet him over here, and we're spoiled because we have Patrick Chiarini, and Patrick come over after the race, and obviously I talked to him throughout the weekend, and because I work with him obviously on the suspension side, so I had to visit him in the mechanics area just like I would in the States. So some things don't change, but getting to meet these other riders, getting to watch Kevin Saar ride in person, like I follow that guy, like,
oh yeah,
he's a bad dude. And so lining up next to him and getting to meet him and stuff, like I got mad respect for those guys, and so do our riders. And there's friendships that are made between these guys that are going to last forever. And so the fan base there is just, I mean, it's unreal. The sidecar thing is sick. The winners of the sidecar MXON. They come up as we were kind of getting off the podium, shaking all of our hands and all of our guys' hands and congratulating everyone. And, mad respect, they gave us so much respect as, we poured back to them. And I think that's the coolest thing is, maybe here we need to not be so numb. I don't say we need to put our riders in a cage and make them, to where they're not accessible, but that was the big thing that stood out to me is the fans were so electric. And I think that's like Bryce's high through the weekend was the fans. I mean, he's sitting over in the corner with kids, like taking selfies on their phone. Like, I don't know, probably swapping phone numbers with these kids. Like he's probably still texting them right now. Like, he's like, I want to come over here and race. Like, this is so much fun. Like just, we had thousands and thousands of stickers. Shout out to Ian at SSI. Like we had the coolest stuff and like little pit boards and stickers for each rider and so much cool stuff that these guys got to just sign and sign and sign. Like I asked Bryce at one point, I'm like, you getting rider's cramp? He's like, dude, my hand hurts, and signing t-shirts and, even us as like mechanics, like we're signing autographs. Like I've never done that in the States, like signing autographs for fans that are there to watch these guys race and stuff. So really cool experience.
Yeah. And it's one of those things that takes me back, and I've thought about this a lot over the years, especially, with all the conversations that being on the podcast here, having the podcast has prompted. But you're so right. Like, obviously these guys are accessible, but they're accessible to the people at the races, at our races, at the ATV Motocross Nationals. So that crew that's at all these races, like you have most everybody's got at least some kind of connection or friendship with the guy in the pro class or whatever. As a kid, and times were different and maybe they were viewed differently because there was more factory teams and all those things. But as a kid, like I got to go to one national a year or whatever. So when I would see Doug Gust or John Natale or Joe Bird or name everybody down the list, Corey Ellis, Dana Creech, like all these people, I mean, I've said it on the show before, but like, to me, it was like they were Ricky Carmichael or Michael Jordan or Brett Favre, like name whatever sport, like in my mind, they were absolutely no different. And there are people out there, whether they're stateside here in America or they're and just not at the races, don't get to see their favorite pros at the races every weekend, or they're across the world. There's people out there that are just as hyped as I used to be to see Doug Gust, to see our guys now. And I often think that I'm like, man, like, the people that get to spend every weekend at the ATV Motocross Nationals are spoiled, because there are people out there, and I was one of those kids that would cry because like it didn't make sense to me that all these other people got to go to all the races and we got to go to one a year kind of things. Like I just wanted to see my favorite riders so badly. So yeah, that is cool. Kind of just tying that up. Like that is such a special thing to see, to see the way that our guys are embraced over there. So Team USA actually ends up, despite that DNF early, they end up notching the perfect score with 3 firsts and 2 seconds. That's the perfect score, with Joel Hetrick going 1-1, Bryce going 1-2, Chad going a drop 2. So that was the perfect score there, which was achieved despite that early DNF, which was a hurdle to get over. Ireland, the defending champs, we've talked about them a little bit. They came home with 2nd overall this year, and the French team finished 3rd. So awesome stuff. Great job by all of those guys. Did any of the European riders stand out to you, Casey, at all? We talked about Kevin Saar, obviously. We talked about Mark McLaren and Patrick Chiarini. The one guy that we did touch on a little bit earlier, and he's the one that flashed to me. If somebody was to say to me, which guy impressed you the most, and he may be the answer for just about everybody, but that Randy Naveau from Belgium, I believe. So 2-3 he went on the weekend. He's the one that won the qualifying race against Bryce. So to win the qualifying race, finish 2nd to Bryce in one moto, finish 3rd in the other one on Sunday. He only got beat by Americans. that was pretty darn impressive by him. And he's a guy that we touched on a little bit coming into the race on the preview show, but he's the guy that popped to me. And like you said, how cool would it be to see him come here to the States? I think that he's a guy that would integrate right into our series really nicely. So maybe we need to get Randy Naveau over here and racing here in America a little bit.
Yeah, he rode awesome. And that's who stands out to me the most. I mean, his speed was really good. His starts were excellent. And so, I think it'd be awesome to see him come over to the States and get to ride with us. And, hopefully I get to go back over to Europe for Quadcross of Nations next year. And I look forward to seeing him. I didn't really get to meet him.
Okay.
I wish I would have. There's not a boatload of social time for us over there when we're trying to do things. And, everyone's kind of focused on the job at hand. So I got to give him respect, though. He was flying. As
a Belgian rider, I wouldn't want to see him on a sand track because those guys are gnarly on sand tracks. So I don't think I would want to see him on a sand track for sure. So credit to him, man. He killed it, especially on a hard packed kind of track like this one was. So Casey, 2 hours we've just about sat here and talked about this race. Not nearly, or I should say, much longer than I expected. But this happens every time I think that we get together to chat about these things. And man, what an awesome event, awesome happening, awesome performance that this was to talk about. I do have one more question for you though. How did the experience compare to any expectations that you may have had coming into the event? Obviously you were sick, so it was, kind of hampered by that a little bit, but how was the experience, or how did the experience compare to your expectations coming in?
I think it was everything I expected for sure. And being that I've been over there, before and kind of know somewhat of the culture, and I know a lot of guys, I've worked with riders that are from, France and Italy and stuff like that. So really it was about exactly what I expected. It was cool to stay in the castle. It was something different. It wasn't just like your normal Holiday Inn Express. The driving is definitely intense. I could definitely reiterate on that one just because the roads are so narrow and stuff like that. But overall, I mean, I am so happy that I went, and it's a experience of a lifetime. If I never get to go again, at least I can say I got to go, I got to experience it, and I got to experience at the top level. For the fans from the US, like, if you can swing it, that is probably the coolest race to go over and support our guys. I think, we have a good following that usually comes over, and there was a good, group of people there. I think it'd be awesome to get even more people over there. Harv and Cindy and Sherry do an awesome job setting up like a hospitality area for like all of our fans that come over from the US, coffee, hot cocos and snacks and things like that. And, just somewhere to like where you can sit down and you just feel like you're back home. You're surrounded by all the awesome easy ups and the Team USA stuff. So, I think a message that I would like to put out there, I guess, is I would like to see even more of our stateside fans come over and get the experience. One, you get to experience Europe. Go a few days early, stay a few days late, whatever it is. Come experience the race. Get to see our guys in all the glory and representing our country, and get another experience with your family. And we talk so much about ATV racing and what it really means, and it's all experiences with your family.
Yeah, I think man, just what an awesome experience to have in your back pocket. I know you've raced in you've went to and been a part of races in Europe before, but man, like, I don't know, just to jump back in the ring as a mechanic and do this whole thing and come away with a win just doesn't get much better than that. So you do it again, Casey. If you got to ask, say next year after, to do this whole thing again, mechanic again, you would jump back in and not bat an eye. You'd jump in and do it. You'd say yes.
If you would have asked me Monday morning if I'd go back and do it again, I probably would have told you no. But absolutely, I would do it until I was 90 years old. I mean, any chance that I ever have to represent this country and represent the sport that we love and has brought me so much joy.
Yeah.
At that level, or at any level, in all honesty, but really it's to get to wear these colors and to go over there and represent and work with a professional crew like that. That's a no-brainer.
Yeah. Well, we'd love to hear it. There's no better way to end it than that, Casey. Casey, just want to congratulate you again on a monumental achievement, awesome thing for you to be a part of. Awesome to hear about it all here. Huge win for you to add to your long and lengthy resume, which is pretty impressive. And like I said, it's so awesome to sit here and hear about this, hear kind of some behind the scenes stuff and how it was all navigated and what all goes into it and what everybody was dealing with, all those things. I just want to thank you for your time and willingness to join us so much. This has been such a blast, such a fun time to chat about all of this, something I've looked forward to for months at this point. As soon as we heard that you were going to be a part of this as wrenching for Bryce, it just seemed like the perfect opportunity for us to kind of pull back the curtains and hear about it all. And man, to have you just share everything that happened, man, iconic event. Awesome to hear about it all. Can't thank you enough for all that. And again, I just want to congratulate you. And man, shoot, like again, here we are 2 hours later. Seems like it was 10 minutes realistically, but man, just can't thank you enough for all your time and for doing this one more time. It's man, it's been a pleasure.
I appreciate it, Cody. And anytime story time is always good for me. I feel like we barely even scratched the surface on a lot of things, but I do want to again thank Bryce, for choosing me to go over there as an honor. The Ford family and everybody, thank you so much for trusting me with your child, your baby, your young adult, young man now, and everyone that helped over there at, Jim for an awesome experience because he didn't do much the entire time we were there, but, Michael just for, cool, a good experience. I haven't got to hang out with Michael much. So, it was awesome to get to actually learn a little bit more about him and become friends. I think it's a lifelong bond that we're going to get. Baldwin and Harv, those guys are the guys that are putting the work in behind the scenes and really making this thing happen. So thank you guys. And JB for being JB. Love that guy. And David Eller, the hospitality. When I got sick of driving back and forth, he let me ride in his car with him. Even when I was feeling under the weather, he still welcomed me into his car with him and never even batted an eye at it. So, it's a huge team group that goes into it and everyone that was involved. Thank you guys, Sherry and Cindy, for keeping us in line mainly. But I appreciate it, Cody. I won't drag this thing out anymore. Anytime you need me on the show, I'm more than happy.
We appreciate it so much, Casey. And again, like you said, I mean, we're going to echo the sentiment that you just had. Thank you to everybody that pulls this thing together. As American ATV motocross fans, we're so proud of our guys, so proud of everybody, including you, Casey, and everybody that you mentioned for putting this thing together and representing us the way that you guys do. It's an amazing thing for us as ATV motocross fans here from America. So yeah, thanks to everybody involved. Credit to everybody involved. Thank you so much for your time, Casey. Now, why don't you go enjoy the off season a little bit, Casey? Maybe enjoy yourself a little bit because you've been on this crazy run now for a little while.
Yeah. Next agenda is a vacation in Cancun for my boy Tim Detling's wedding. So
yes.
We're gearing up for that. So that'll be the first time that we ever really have been on a vacation. So I'm
awesome.
More than ready and more than excited about that.
Yeah, you deserve it, Casey. Well, congrats again, and we'll see you soon. Thanks so much for your time.
All right, thanks, Cody.
That's
see you guys.
That's Quadcross of Nations champion mechanic Casey Greek, brought to you by Blenders Eyewear right here on the Digging Deep ATVMX podcast. Use discount code DiggingDeep20 at blenderseyewear.com. Thanks so much, Casey. We'll see you soon. Man, it feels like we've been talking about this event for the better part of a year, and we've been talking about it for a while, don't get me wrong, but it's somewhat sad that it's over. At the same time, what matters most is it ended in victory for our guys at Team USA. Thanks to producer Dallas Jansen, my brother, for all his hard work. Thanks to Brooke and AMA official Harv Whipple. Thanks to all of our donors. You know who you are. We appreciate you so much. Thanks to all of our partners, CST Tires. Go to shop.csttires.com today. Yamaha, thanks to Blue Crew. SSI Decals, DID Racing Chain, Namura Technologies, Bronco ATV and UTV Components, Impact Solutions, Launderville Steel Enterprises and Concrete Supply, the financial advice of the Haymauer Financial Group, Forworks Carbon, DP Brakes, Factory 43, Integrated Financial Concepts and their Safe to Race and Safe to Ride insurance programs, Binky's Forever ATC Museum, Evans Waterless Power Sports Coolant, Walsh Racecraft, and Manscaped. Get 20% off and free shipping with code DIGGINGDEEP20 at manscaped.com. Also, one more note here, Blenzall, who you know we love those guys over there, ATV-friendly company, love Blenzall. Those guys were an official sponsor of Team USA at this year's victory at the Quadcross of Nations. And as a proud sponsor of the team and in honor of that, Blenzall is offering 25% off to our audience by using code TEAMUSA at blenzall.com. So be sure to cash in on that. Thanks to those guys for wanting to help out the ATV motocross community. So support the brands that support our show, and don't forget to use those codes to save. You can find it all on our website, and be sure to click that Rocky Mountain ATVMC banner for all your gear and parts needs and to help us out. And most of all, thanks to you guys for listening. Our show merchandise, including our new Legends Never Die tees and the rest of our apparel line, are all available at shop.diggingdeepatvmx.com, so check that out today. This new merch drop is so rad. If you're looking for another easy way to help support us, visit our website and click the Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee buttons. This allows you to set up a one-time or monthly contribution to support our efforts. You can give us a call using our voicemail line, give us your reaction to the show, the races, and or everything in between, so we can play them on the show and react to what you have to say. That number is 920-569-3519. We want to hear from you, so give us a call, guys. Follow the show on social media, Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast, and myself, Cody Jansen, for additional content, coverage, and more fun stuff as we transition fully into the off season. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and more. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find the Digging Deep ATVMX Podcast. All episodes, additional podcast providers, sponsor links and discount codes, show merchandise, fantasy info, and more can all be found on our website, diggingdeepatvmx.com, so check that out today. Be a friend, tell a friend, please download, subscribe, rate, review, and share. And with that, for Chad Wienen, Bryce Ford, Casey Greek, Brooke Jansen, Dallas Jansen, and I'm your host, Cody Jansen. Thanks for listening to and making us the #1 podcast in ATV racing, with over 180,000 downloads last month in 95 total countries. Until next time, thanks for joining us in Digging Deep with the Stars of ATV Motocross. USA, USA, USA. Things are crashing and burning here at the Digging Deep podcast, much like the Titanic.
Those guys were hauling ass, for real.
I remember watching Doug Gus, I don't know who it was, Steel City, running the same times Friday afternoon as James Stewart was on Sunday back then. It was mental. I've never seen quads go that fast.
Quadlers are freaking gnarly.